quite looked at it quite at that depth, but that's exactly what it is. You walk into a coffee shop and people don't even bother to look up anymore.
Right. They're terrified to.
They stay glued to that flat machine. And if you think that little screen is not going to evolve into something which not just consumes consciousness, but imparts ideas and actions. I mean, you're doing it already. I mean, if you're driving, how many people bother to look at a map anymore and draw a route? No, you key it in, and then you obey that sweet little voice. Turn left here, go 2 blocks, make a right. And by the way, I just wish someone would sell one of those things with options, like a humorous option.
The George Carlin voice.
Something like, good God, asshole, I told you to make a left. That's the 3rd left you've missed. Shit like that. Right?
You know, it's the saddest part of all of it. They get all this data about you. So Google now knows everything you search for and reads all your email, because I got 15,000 signups on the email list, 17,000, and I see who the emails are. They're mostly Gmail addresses. So they know what you're searching for. They know where you physically are because they own Android. And if they didn't own Android, they own the Google searches and they own the Google Maps and they own Fitbit. So they know your heart rate. So they know when you're looking for porn, what porn you're watching, and when you catch your nut. This is not... And then after they do all of that, they still give you shitty untargeted ads anyway. So, yeah. So you do a search for a humidifier and you buy one, and now they show you humidifiers for the next 6 months like you're collecting the fucking things, like you need 10 of them. It just doesn't make any sense.
I think I'm going to enjoy this.
So what would be awesome is if companies made money not trying to suck up all your time and still found the synergy to show you products that you wanted to buy and then let you be free and to go do other things. It'd be better for everyone. Companies would make more money. The human would have more free time. You'd be able to watch. It would just make everything better. And it's just silly that we're not there yet.
But hang on. But someone would sneak in with something brand new and steal more of the consciousness.
It could be, yes.
So this is corporate greed. This is how it fucking works. There's never enough. I don't care.
It's true.
If a company is making a profit of $100 billion a year, that's not enough.
Well, the funny part is that if the CEO attempted to be more humanist and save the humans, so for instance, if a CEO of a company produced a terrible product and knew that his competitor had a better product, in an ideal world, he would say, listen, our product sucks, you should buy that other one, we'll do our best to do better. But the shareholders could sue him for not acting in the best interest of the company. So even if a CEO wanted to do the right thing, the fact that he's beholden to the shareholders means that he can't. So he has to use dark patterns, and he has to lie and frame things so that his bad product looks good.
I'm not sure that's just the only option. I mean, I've been in this situation many times. If it were me, I'd go, Jesus God, that product is so much better than mine. Someone schedule a meeting with their CEO.
Right.
And then I'd walk in with my bravest face and my, the best cards that I can play. And I'd say, let's cut a deal. Buy my ass out, or I will ravage your heels forever. Come on, that's how
it's true. Yeah, look, it's
that's how it really works. And then, you explain to the shareholders, I'm sorry, we fucked up. Our development team, I fired them all, and the ones that didn't leave, I've shot. So that's no more problem.
We know that if you started shooting your workers, they would live because they're all wearing body armor. So you'd have to be very targeted with where you're shooting them. You got to enter the throat, basically.
Yeah.
This is for the people that know, John. So my idea of life was always, okay, I want to try and live forever if I can, but I'm no good at dieting. I'm good at exercise now, but just lifting weights, not the cardio. So half of fitness and no dieting. So if I'm going to survive, I need technology. That's what I need. And now I think you're 74, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So John's 74. He's fitter than I am. If you see him with his shirt off, he'll take pictures and put his shirt off on the internet. I'm not doing that. I don't want you to see what's under here. He's happy to show off his body. He's even got crypto tattoos. If you're gonna get to 74, you've got two options. Try and make it last as long as you can.
All right, let me just start it.
Go out with a bang, right? I think John chose the bang route.
I have been actually going out with a bang for 35 years or more.
All right. I think we're live.
The bang just hasn't popped yet.
I'm not that.
They need to study.
You do that thing where you have people
if ever they
type in, so we know we're live. But I'm just gonna wing it. I usually do shows at 6 p.m. and I haven't done live, and I just announced it yesterday. So I'm not expecting a huge crowd, but I wanted to record it because this is very exciting
to know how to handle them
this
properly.
Bitcoin Hex project.
Yes,
I'm
like,
I fell into your little rabbit hole. I woke up one morning. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night. I go to bed early and I read a little and go back to sleep.
Not that many
Twitter,
people
I stumbled on your video at 3 in the morning and I watched it for like 2 hours. And that's, and then,
it's no secret that I failed the Captain so in the experimental research range.
So, I wanted to, and my viewers, I give advice sometimes on what
is the thing called.
I'm not a financial analyst, but I talk about the different crypto projects. What you have is
you remember some years back where a stranger ate another stranger's face?
Yeah, it's a Florida story. I'm from Florida. I know all the Florida stories.
Okay, so it really was on MDPV. I don't care what the toxicology reports say, because you couldn't identify it. They didn't have any toxicology reports. Methylene dioxypyrovalerone, I know for a fact. Well, anyway, so his problem was this. MDPV is so dosage dependent. So for every 25 pounds of weight, you want to take 1 milligram. 1 milligram. All right. So if you take, let's say you're 150 pounds, that's going to be 6 milligrams. If you take exactly 6 milligrams of exactly pure MDPV, you're going to have an experience that you will never fucking forget. I promise you.
I would suggest that everyone try this out when they're 74.
No, let me finish. Let me finish. If you take 7 milligrams, you're going to eat somebody's face off. And if you take 5, you're going to feel nothing at all. So this is some of the problems with the new research chemicals. They are extraordinarily dosage dependent. So
shouldn't they in theory cut that down so that you have to use a larger unit set so that your errors are smaller? So if you
people do it, people do it different ways. Okay, they'll take a kilo, cut it in half, and cut that in half, cut that in half, and you just partition it out.
But if one of your cuts isn't right, then you're over on one of them and you're fucked.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. So no, you got to spend a few $1,000s for a scale that will measure micrograms.
Or just not do any of that shit. Just be happy with the normal drugs.
I mean, I've taken all the normal drugs. I mean, I'm sorry.
See, if what you're saying about being dose dependent is true, then there's also likely dosage modifiers such as body weight, metabolism level, other drugs that you're taking that may increase or decrease your metabolism.
Anybody who would ever begin to go into the cathinones is going to carry a large quantity of benzodiazepines. Right. If something does go awry and you want to eat your landlord's face, say, wait a minute, let me pop this pill first.
Oh, man.
Then if you still want to eat his face, maybe you don't like him.
So I asked, because you're a wonderful speaker. So, when I first saw you, I thought, this guy's crazy. Because the first time I saw you, you were snorting coke or pretend coke off of the table, and there was a bunch of professional-looking ladies in bikinis surrounding you. It was an advertisement that you had produced. I think you shot it in Belize. And I thought, okay, that's interesting, right? You were a successful tech entrepreneur, and now it looked to me like you were going to do the social wild man kind of thing. And then, I actually saw you speak on television regarding your price prediction, your $1 million Bitcoin in 2020, end of 2020 price prediction. And it was very, very, very good. Your tonality and your intonation and your timing was all fabulous. So I really respect your public speaking. And a lot of people are hyped up about this interview that we're doing because we're both kind of the top of the crypto public speaking game. There's maybe only 4 people that could do well.
I'm not quite in your class yet, but I'm working on it. All right.
I've seen you wear a suit, man. It's different. you can do it.
I'm going to take a few more stimulants and see if I can't catch it.
Yeah. So in crypto, I mean, it's Andreas Antonopoulos, Trace Mayer, me, you, and really no one else is a good public speaker that I can think of off the top of my head. Do you know of any other?
Roger Ver is a good public speaker.
Yeah, that's true. As long as he stays in his talking points, but he can.
That's right.
He can. Like he'll stay in them. He knows what they are.
Yes.
I registered satoshizvision.com because he quoted that so many times. And then someone else actually created a fork of his project with that name, which is just funny to me because I own the name. Like,
right.
I offered to, I'm like, Calvin, hey, buy this from me because I don't want it, right? And no response. For a billionaire, you should buy the URL, the .com for your project's name. It seems like a no-brainer to me,
I agree. Well, now that we've stroked each other about how great we are at public speaking and just about everything else.
Right.
I bet your listeners want us to talk about something that matters to them.
Yeah, well, I did a poll, and I asked them what they wanted us to talk about.
I'm sorry?
I said, I did a poll, and I asked them what they wanted us to talk about, and I said, smart, crazy, or funny, and they chose smart, 50% of them. So I think they really want to learn smart stuff from us more than they want us to be crazy or interesting.
Fuck me.
So from my perspective, I think we should talk about making money.
Let me pop another stimulant right here.
All right. So what are you drinking there?
By the way,
is that antifreeze?
Anybody know what this is?
Blue Curacao?
Nope, absolutely not. It comes from Australia, and it's a gin called Ink, and it's the color of ink.
Huh.
You pour some water in it and get the exact shade you want, and that's what you drink. Anyway, we diverged or converged.
So I think what I care about is making money. It's where I wear my own logo with the fist crushing money. It's where I started, and then I retired and took 10 years off, and now I'm back at it. It was longer, actually. I retired in 2003. Now it's 2019. Maybe I started 2 years ago. So that's like 14 years I took off. Now I'm back at it. I think making money is why people are in crypto. I really don't think the majority of people, or even the minority, are in it for a reason different. I think making money is the best thing you can do in crypto. So I think we should talk about that, making money in crypto.
That's a subject dear to my heart. And I think that that's a fundamental problem in the crypto world, is that everybody's looking at it as a way to make money. No one's looking at what I believe was the original intent, starting with Adam Back's paper back in 1985. The original intent was to provide a means of currency, which was more powerful, far quicker to transact.
I halfway agree.
Well,
I'm halfway with you.
And then I think it transformed into a freedom sort of movement. Like, hey, this is our currency. We own this. It came from us. This didn't come from the bowels of some government or from IBM or Samsung. Oh, fuck no, it came from the people. And this is the blockchain. Fuck cryptocurrency, just the blockchain. Is a world transforming technology. And if people don't see that yet, then, move out of your mom's basement. That's all I can tell you. But it is a world changing technology.
So
if we use this appropriately, I'm almost an anarchist in my political beliefs. And I think power to the people is what life is all about. And if we use cryptocurrency for an intended purpose of transacting business, for buying and selling of goods and services, then what happens? Since we are controlling where coins are being created all the time, and new blockchains are being created, and new ways of doing smart contracts.
Hello, everyone. This is Richard Hart. You may know me from my pitifully small Twitter account where I have 50,000 followers. With me here is a real man, John McAfee, who has 1.1 million followers, which is 20x more. He's been at this longer than I have. He's, my biggest company was 150 employees, How many employees was your biggest company? Do you remember?
I don't know, a few thousand. Way too many. Way too many to be fun, I'll tell you that.
Yep.
And by the way, I'd like to point out how it's become so common to rate people according to their followers, according to the likes, according to their retweets. I find it very, very humorous in many respects, and that's hardly the measure of a person by any stretch of the imagination, other than, oh, I know that name.
Yeah, it's interesting, so people have less deep connections now and more shallow connections. So if you look at who people marry, back in the old days, people would marry within, a 20-mile radius of where they lived, because that's the only people they met, right? And now people, they hop on Tinder, and people end up marrying people that are thousands of miles away. And it's changed a lot of stuff in the culture for the worse. So, if you're on Twitter, as I often am, they measure how many.
I think that's good for the gene pool. I really do.
That is, yes. I agree with that.
The smaller the community, the more inbred it becomes. Mm-hmm. I mean, ultimately, if you live in the Appalachians, way off in the mountains, the only people you know are your cousins, and that's who you marry. I mean, so
yep.
I think it's good. It's good for the diversity of the gene pool.
I agree with that. From the dating perspective, it is better. From the synergy and business perspective, it's better. But from the consumption of human consciousness, and you look at how humans spend their time now, they spend all of their minutes staring at a screen, hoping for the dopamine hit of the likes for people that they'll never meet, that if the shit really hit the fan, maybe some of them would be there. And so these companies, there's surveillance capitalism, and then there's attention capitalism, and they're consuming all of our consciousness. And then there's nothing left to create. There's nothing left to be you when you spend all day consuming someone else's ideas,
I like your phrase, consumption of human consciousness, because really I'd never quite looked at it quite at that depth, but that's exactly what it is. You walk into a coffee shop, and people don't even bother to look up anymore.
Right. They're terrified to.
They stay glued to that flat machine, and if you think that little screen is not going to evolve into something which not just consumes consciousness, but imparts ideas and actions. I mean, you're doing it already. I mean, if you're driving, how many people bother to look at a map anymore and draw a route? No, you key it in, and then you obey that sweet little voice. Turn left here, go 2 blocks, make a right. And by the way, I just wish someone would sell one of those things with options, like a humorous option.
The George Carlin voice.
Something like, good God, asshole, I told you to make a left. That's the 3rd left you've missed. Shit like that. Right?
It's the saddest part of all of it? They get all this data about you. So Google now knows everything you search for and reads all your email, because I got 15,000 signups on email. That's 17,000, and I see who the emails are. They're mostly Gmail addresses. So they know what you're searching for. They know where you physically are because they own Android. And if they didn't own Android, they own the Google searches, and they own the Google Maps, and they own Fitbit, so they know your heart rate. So they know when you're looking for porn, what porn you're watching, and when you catch your nut. This is not... And then after they do all of that, they still give you shitty untargeted ads anyway. So, yeah. So you do a search for a humidifier and you buy one, and now they show you humidifiers for the next 6 months like you're collecting the fucking things, like you need 10 of them. It just doesn't make any sense.
I think I'm going to enjoy this.
So what would be awesome is if companies made money not trying to suck up all your time and still found this energy to show you products that you wanted to buy, and then let you be free and to go do other things. It'd be better for everyone. Companies would make more money. The human would have more free time. You'd be able to watch. It would just make everything better. And it's just silly that we're not there yet.
But hang on. But someone would sneak in with something brand new and steal more of the consciousness. You
know,
it
could be. Yes.
This is corporate greed. This is how it fucking works. There's never enough. I don't care.
It's true.
If a company is making a profit of $100 billion a year, that's not enough.
Well, the funny part is that if the CEO attempted to be more humanist and save the humans, so for instance, if a CEO of a company produced a terrible product and knew that his competitor had a better product, in an ideal world, he would say, listen, our product sucks, you should buy that other one, we'll do our best to do better. But the shareholders could sue him for not acting in the best interest of the company. So even if a CEO wanted to do the right thing, the fact that he's beholden to the shareholders means that he can't. So he has to use dark patterns, and he has to lie and frame things so that his bad product looks good.
I'm not sure that's just the only option. I mean, I've been in this situation many times. If it were me, I'd go, Jesus God, that product is so much better than mine. Someone schedule a meeting with their CEO.
Right.
And then I'd walk in with my bravest face and my, the best cards that I can play. And I'd say, let's cut a deal. Buy my ass out, or I will ravage your heels forever. Come on, that's how
it's true. Yeah, look, it's
that's how it really works. And then, you explain to the shareholders, I'm sorry, we fucked up. Our development team, I fired them all, and the ones that didn't leave, I've shot. So that's no more problem.
We know that if you started shooting your workers, they would live because they're all wearing body armor. So you'd have to be very targeted with where you're shooting them. You got to aim for the throat, basically.
Yeah.
This is for the people that know, John. So in my idea of life was always, okay, I want to try and live forever if I can, but I'm no good at dieting. I'm good at exercise now, but just lifting weights, not the cardio. So half of fitness and no dieting. So if I'm going to survive, I need technology. That's what I need. And now I think you're 74, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So John's 74. He's fitter than I am. If you see him with his shirt off, he'll take pictures and put his shirt off on the internet. I'm not doing that. I don't want you to see what's under here. He's happy to show off his body. He's even got crypto tattoos. If you're gonna get to 74, you've got two options: try and make it last as long as you can, or go out with a bang. Right? I think John chose the bang route. I
have been actually going out with a bang for 35 years or more. The bang just hasn't popped yet. Okay?
They need to study your DNA if ever they have the chance, because I mean I've seen some of your interviews, and I believe you do experimental chemicals, designer drugs that aren't even mainstream enough for most people to know how to handle them properly.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so normal drugs are not good enough for John. John needs drugs that are a next level. Not that many people have taken them yet.
Let me give you an example. All right, so it's no secret that I favor cathinones in the experimental research range, and they're stimulants, but way more than stimulants. So one of them is a thing called methylene dioxypyrovalerone, MDPV. Now, you remember some years back where a stranger ate another stranger's face?
Yeah, it's a Florida story. I'm from Florida. I know all the Florida stories.
Okay, so he really was on MDPV. I don't care what the toxicology reports say. He goes, you couldn't identify it. They didn't have any toxicology reports. Methylene dioxypyrovalerone. I know for a fact. Well, anyway, so his problem was this. MDPV is so dosage dependent. So for every 25 pounds of weight, you want to take 1 milligram. 1 milligram. All right. So if you take, let's say you're 150 pounds, that's going to be 6 milligrams. If you take exactly 6 milligrams of exactly pure MDPV, you're going to have an experience that you will never fucking forget. I promise you.
I would suggest that everyone try this out when they're 74.
No, let me finish. Let me finish. If you take 7 milligrams, you're going to eat somebody's face off. And if you take 5, you're going to feel nothing at all. So this is some of the problems with the new research chemicals. They are extraordinarily dosage dependent. So
I mean, shouldn't they in theory cut that down so that you have to use a larger unit set so that your errors are smaller? So if you
people do it, people do it different ways. Okay, they'll take a kilo, cut it in half, and cut that in half, cut that in half, and you just partition it out.
But if one of your cuts isn't right, then you're over on one of them and you're fucked.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. So no, you got to spend a few $1,000s for a scale that will measure micrograms.
Or not, or just not do any of that shit. Just be happy with the normal drugs.
I mean, I've taken all the normal drugs. I mean, I'm sorry.
See, if what you're saying about being dose dependent is true, then there's also likely dosage modifiers such as body weight, metabolism level, like other drugs that you're taking that may increase or decrease your metabolism.
Anybody who would ever begin to go into the cathinones is going to carry a large quantity of benzodiazepines. Right. To
take
if something does go awry and you want to eat your landlord's face, say, wait a minute, let me pop this pill first.
Oh man!
Then if you still want to eat his face, maybe you don't like him.
So I asked, because you're a wonderful speaker. So when I first saw you, I thought, oh, this guy's crazy. Because the first time I saw you, you were snorting coke or pretend coke off of the table, and there was a bunch of professional-looking ladies in bikinis surrounding you. It was an advertisement that you had produced. I think you shot it in Belize. And I thought, okay, that's interesting, right? You were a successful tech entrepreneur, and now it looked to me like you were going to do the social wild man kind of thing. And then, I actually saw you speak on television regarding your price prediction, your $1 million Bitcoin in 2020, end of 2020 price prediction. And it was very, very, very good. Your tonality and your intonation and your timing was all fabulous. So I really respect your public speaking. And a lot of people are hyped up about this interview that we're doing because we're both kind of the top of the crypto public speaking game. There's maybe only 4 people that could do well.
I'm not quite in your class yet, but I'm working on it. All right.
I've seen you wear a suit, man. It's different. you can do it.
I'm going to take a few more stimulants and see if I can't catch it.
Yeah. So in crypto, I mean, it's Andreas Antonopoulos, Trace Meyer, me, you, and really no one else is a good public speaker that I can think of off the top of my head. Do you know of any other?
Roger Ver is a good public speaker.
Yeah, that's true. As long as he stays in his talking points, but he can.
That's right.
He can. Like he'll stay in them. He knows what they are. I registered satoshizvision.com because he quoted that so many times. And then someone else actually created a fork of his project with that name, which is just funny to me because I own the name. Right. I offered I'm like, Calvin, hey, buy this from me because I don't want it, right? And no response. For a billionaire, you should buy the URL, the .com for your project's name. It seems like a no-brainer to
me, I agree. Well, now that we've stroked each other about how great we are at public speaking and just about everything else,
right. I bet
your listeners want us to talk about something that matters to them.
Yeah, well, I did a poll and I asked them what they wanted us to talk about. I said, I did a poll and I asked them what they wanted us to talk about. And I said, smart, crazy, or funny. And they chose smart, 50% of them. So I think they really want to learn smart stuff from us more than they want us to be crazy or interesting.
Fuck me.
So from my perspective, I think we should talk about making money.
Let me pop another stimulant right here.
All right. So what are you drinking there?
By the way,
is that antifreeze? Blue Curacao?
Nope, absolutely not. It comes from Australia, and it's a gin called Ink, and it's the color of ink.
Huh.
You pour some water in it and get the exact shade you want, and that's what you drink. Anyway, we diverged or converged.
So I think what I care about is making money. It's where I wear my own logo with a fist crushing money. It's where I started, and then I retired and took 10 years off, and now I'm back at it. It was longer, actually. I retired in 2003. Now it's 2019. Maybe I started 2 years ago. So that's like 14 years I took off. Now I'm back at it. I think making money is why people are in crypto. I really don't think the majority of people, or even the minority, are in it for a reason different. I think making money is the best thing you can do in crypto. So I think we should talk about that, making money in crypto.
That's a subject dear to my heart, and I think that that's a fundamental problem in the crypto world, is that everybody's looking at it as a way to make money. No one's looking at what I believe was the original intent. Starting with Adam Back's paper back in 1985. The original intent was to provide a means of currency which was more powerful, far quicker to transact.
I halfway agree.
Well,
I'm halfway with you.
And then I think it transformed into a freedom sort of movement. Like, hey, this is our currency. We own this. It came from us. This didn't come from the bowels of some government or from IBM or Samsung. Oh, fuck no, it came from the people. And this is the blockchain. Fuck cryptocurrency, just the blockchain is a world transforming technology. And if people don't see that yet, then, move out of your mom's basement. That's all I can tell you. But it is a world changing technology.
So
if we use this appropriately, I'm almost an anarchist in my political beliefs, and I think power to the people is what life is all about. And if we use cryptocurrency for an intended purpose of transacting business, for buying and selling of goods and services, then what happens? Since we are controlling where coins are being created all the time, and new blockchains are being created, and new ways of doing smart contracts, and if we own this technology ourselves and don't let the government or a regulatory body or a bank tell us what to do, it can literally free you people. I mean, what controls your life? Money, the dollar, the yen, the British pound. You can't pay your rent without it, can't buy a car, send your kids to school, get medical care, nothing. It controls your life. And who controls the fiat currency? Well, God knows who in some countries. Right. Feds, government, regulatory bodies, they all influence, financial institutions influence what your labor is worth. If the dollar is devalued by doubling the supply, your labor was what was lost.
So I agree with a lot of this. So I'll try and I usually start hammering the old blockchain and being mean to it and then be nice to it at the end. I'm going to do it backwards this time. I'll be nice to it up front. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum have gone up from zero to many thousands of dollars. I got into Bitcoin in 2011 when it was 30. I used to mine full blocks on my own with no pool. Back when the reward was 50 Bitcoin per block, this stuff used to be free. And then that phase died out very quickly because it became very competitive. Then it went up to 20,000. Okay, so let's say you got in at 20 and it went up to 20,000. That's 1,000x. Ethereum went even higher, even faster. Ethereum did a 4,500x in 3.5 years. So, yes. People that got into Ethereum during its initial launch, where people traded Bitcoin for Ethereum, did better than Bitcoin holders did, and they did better faster. That was really pissed me off because I didn't own any Ethereum. I just owned a lot of Bitcoin, and that's why I became public. I'm like, hey, wait a second, I don't have any Ethereum.
For a couple of years, Ethereum was absolutely in lockstep with Bitcoin at 1/10 its price.
Interesting. Yeah, but that was before for a long time I didn't even know existed.
Starting in 2017.
So whether blockchain can change the world or whether your cryptocurrency of choice can change the world, that doesn't really matter if you care about becoming very wealthy, because you can become very wealthy with these things. If you care about becoming very wealthy, we have very little adoption, and yet these things are the best performing assets in the history of mankind. Imagine if we had good adoption. It would be even more insane.
Yes,
so,
which is another reason we have to adopt. We have to actually use the fucking currencies. That's where the value comes from. Why do you think Bitcoin went up in price? Because people were buying pizzas with 50 Bitcoins to begin with, right? And then
about 10,000, the first one.
Other people started using it, and the more you use it, the greater the demand. And that's the issue. We need to increase demand again by using these currencies.
There's an art to that. So I think that's wrong, and here's why I think that. First, there's economics has a formula that states that the higher the velocity of money, which means how fast it turns over, the lower the actual value of the money. What makes a currency valuable is when its supply is reduced. And its supply is reduced when people hold on to it for longer and don't release it. When people actually spend their money, it creates a money multiplier effect, which actually increases the credit and supply of the system, which devalues the actual money because they're happy to use the credit and other proxies that are proxies of the real thing, and then the real thing doesn't have to rise in value as much. And as proof of that, I would show you that with very little actual use and very little actual utility, we have the best looking price chart in history. And it's because there's nothing else you can do with these things. Now, there is a downside to that. You will need to continue onboarding new users, and if you have a compelling value statement such as fast and affordable transactions, censorship resistance, immutable transactions, you can onboard those users. However, those users are only 5 to 10% of the ecosystem currently. If you care about using crypto, you'll use Monero because it's actually private. You will not use Bitcoin. You will not use Ethereum.
We all know that.
Right. But if you look at the price doesn't indicate that the market cares about anonymity. Most people don't take these coins into their own wallets. And I truly mean most people. There's only 2.8 million Bitcoin addresses that have over $1,000 in them. And most people have more than one address. So that's maybe 2 million people that have got $1,000 of Bitcoin. The vast majority of people that think they're using Bitcoin are actually using exchanges, which are the opposite of what Bitcoin was invented for. Bitcoin was invented to get rid of the counterparties, not create new ones.
Right.
So if you want to see true adoption, someone has to have the margin and the marketing budget to pay for ads that go out into the public that onboard new users. It costs $10 or $20 to onboard a new user. If you can't make $10 or $20 by onboarding that guy, you can't leave your advertisement up. You just run out of money. So the only people in crypto that have ads are scammers who have infinite profit margin, exchanges that bang you up on fees, binary options which bang you up on fees, margin trading which bangs you up on fees times 100. Why do you think they give you margin? So you can trade more money than you have, so they can multiply the house advantage against you. You think you're beating the house when you have, 5 hands at a blackjack table. No, you're just losing more money faster. They want you to have as many hands as you can possibly play. So I
mean, hang on. But here's something about the blockchain which is unique. It's being applied in astonishing new ways already. You say that the people aren't using it. That's bullshit. Almost everybody who's had a supply chain problem for hundreds of years is now using the blockchain to stop all the theft and deceit that goes on in the supply chain. There's a cryptocurrency called DAI, which belies what you just said, by the way, which is a stable coin. You're familiar with it,
yes. That is interesting. So hang
on, but it doesn't matter how much volume you have. It doesn't matter what happens to the crypto market. It never strays more than 1% above, 1% below, and it's working just fine. It's my coin of choice just to dump things in while I'm waiting for something else.
I hope it continues to work.
You don't have, there's no off ramp necessary. Why get off when you've got the AI?
Yeah, I understand completely. So I hope it continues to work. Lots of cool economic inventions have been invented, such as a credit default swap, such as mortgage-backed securities, and they worked very, very well for decades. And then a black swan event happened and they stopped working. And so using over-collateralization to attempt to defend a price peg can work for a very long time, but a black swan can occur and the peg can break. I hope it never happens, but you have to understand that when you put $1 into a stable coin, your actual value in that dollar is less than $1 because you have to reduce its value by the black swan risk that the over-collateralization wasn't enough to defend the peg. And I don't know whether that's 2% or 3% or no percent. I mean, look, Tether has huge counterparty risk, and everyone seems fine with that. I mean, probably I would take a DAI over a Tether. So I'm just saying, it's progress, and it's good. It's peer-to-peer. It's open sourced. It is progress. I think if you want to get 1 million users on board, you got to have someone with margin. And so, unless you have ads on Facebook, if you're Clash of Clans, you get 100 million users a day. There's 6 other games like Clash of Clans that have 100 million users a day, all of them. That's 600 million users a day on your various random casual games. Bitcoin's been around for 10 years, and we are not onboarding new users at the pace that we need to, and we never will be unless the marketing changes. So I created something to fix that problem, and I know that you're attempting to fix that problem yourself. I mean, you didn't get a tattoo of a cryptocurrency because you didn't want to advertise it, right? I mean, how many people out there are willing to really make the effort to speak out, you know? You are, I am. There's not enough of us.
Let's move on to an individual's personal sovereignty and its relation to cryptocurrency. Mm-hmm. I'm a firm believer that number one, income taxes are absolutely illegal. They are unconstitutional. We never had income taxes in America until 1913. We got along just fine. It's just an easy way for congressmen and senators to fatten their pockets in their districts at our expense. And so I don't think it's anybody's business where I make my money, how much I make, what I do with it. End of fucking story. And if there are any of you out there that believe likewise, then cryptocurrency is an answer. Privacy coins, you mentioned Monero. I think that's certainly the oldest and the most reliable. The U.S. government, by the way, put out an RFP this past January, a request for proposal from companies that could propose ways of breaking into Monero's data. I don't think that they will find a solution, not until we get way better quantum computers than we have now.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I agree with you there. So I think that it's a very easy way for governments to have never-ending wars is to just inflate the currency to pay for them instead of actually requiring people pay a tax and then noticing that they're expensive things and that they don't want them anymore. So
what about a currency that the government doesn't control, that nobody controls?
I believe in it.
A trustless distributed system that can't be shut down, can't be controlled.
I agree.
Then what's wrong with that as a possible solution to unlock the cage of your financial slavery? And if you think you're not slaves, people, I don't know any of you in the audience. However, I can guess what many of your lives are like. I mean, if you're the average professional wage earner, you commute to an office in the morning after kissing your family goodbye. You stay 8 hours in a windowless, airless environment. You reverse that coming home, and you do that 5 days a week for 40 years. And you get a few weeks off every year. They let you out of your cage, and then you start over. And the work that you're doing is not work that you wake up on Monday going, oh, thank God, I get to go to work today. No, it's a type of work that you go, thank God it's Friday. Is that the life? That's financial. That's financial slavery for you. This is how it looks in this modern era.
A lot of people choose that for themselves. A lot of people waste a lot of money on shit they do not need. I don't understand it. I don't like wasting money. If you think about what it really takes to live and how much it really costs you, it ain't as much as you think, and you really could save a lot if you really wanted to, even if you're broke as hell.
It's next to nothing if you're willing to be minimalistic.
Yep, peanut butter and jelly and rice and beans will get you a long way.
And also if you can acquire a secondhand house that's off the grid, with solar or hydro or wind or something, live off the land. Good God, people. There are seeds you can buy in grocery stores.
Yeah, people forget seeds exist. Like, you can grow your own food, like it just comes out of the earth for free? No way. The rain's free and everything. Wow.
Well, it's not exactly for free. You got to water and you got to weed, but that's about all. I mean, plants don't require a whole lot of attention. You don't have to sing to them like some people say.
Who do you think has made the most money in crypto?
Well, obviously Jihan Wu.
I don't think he made. Okay, how much do you think Jihan made?
Yeah, he's got to be worth $25 billion. Run the numbers. Good God Almighty, he's the only manufacturer. Bitmain's
yeah, but I mean, I don't think the block rewards in total over the years Bitmain existed add up to that much.
I'm sorry, say it again.
So Bitmain's income is a function of the block reward. They can't get their customers to pay them more than the total Bitcoin block reward. I don't think the total block rewards for all of the time Bitmain existed adds up to that much. I don't think he's got that much. He could have $1 billion or $2 billion, I think. I don't think he can have 25.
That's not where they're making their money. Good God, man. They are the largest Bitcoin miner in the world and always have been, and they have never. I know Jihan personally. I think he's probably the most humble man I've ever met. No pretensions. He's never sold a single fucking Bitcoin.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I think he went all in on BCH and got the shit wrecked out of him. And I've seen him yelling on YouTube, "It is Bitcoin Cash, not Bcash." I've seen him yelling, and I've seen him get wrecked on that BCH chart hard as fuck. I don't. And that little bitch blocked me on Twitter. So I ain't got nothing nice to say about him. He tried to kill the real Bitcoin with a fake copy of it, and he fucked up entirely so much that they removed him from his own company that he founded. And they just put him back.
The question wasn't who do we like or dislike. Although I did volunteer, I like. Okay. The question was, who do you think the richest man is?
Yeah, you might be right. You might be right. I think
it's either him or Brock Pierce.
Right. So EOS hit it home run, 4.2 billion raise. I'm not sure how much Brock got to keep. I don't know how Brock and PDT.
He had billions before EOS. Good God Almighty, the man owns half the fucking Pachinko machines in China, for fuck's sake. All right, I know he's another good friend of mine. So
yeah, Brock seems to have good power in the ecosystem. Sure, like I agree. Brock's in the player list. Jihan's in the player list. Coinbase, Brian Armstrong's in the player list.
Yes.
I think from my limited, you have other knowledge to other revenue streams these guys have because you have better relationships with them. From my perspective as an outsider, more so than you are, I think the Block One guys with their 4.2 billion raise on EOS made more money than Brian plus Arthur from BitMEX plus Satoshi plus all those guys combined. Just look at the math. So Jihan and EOS guys top two.
Yeah, that's my guess. Who would you guess?
I'm with you on all fronts. The only thing that I thought was maybe I don't know about Brock's share of EOS, what percent cut he got because he kind of got publicly removed a little early.
Listen, that's a maneuver for PR.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Who do you think the unhappiest man in crypto is? Or
Roger Ver.
I would put two of them in there. I think Roger and Craig Wright together.
Bitfinex seems pretty unhappy.
Would make a good team, wouldn't they?
Who? Roger and
Craig Wright.
Here's the thing. I did an interview with Roger a very long time ago. I met him in 2013 at a Bitcoin conference, and he's a nice guy. He wants good things for the world. And I told him on stream, I'm like, why are you interacting with this guy that pretends to be Satoshi? And he just kept doing it. And now, when you lay in bed with bad bedfellows, you wake up with fleas. And, because he gave this guy press time, he created that fork that tried to kill his coin. So he created a coin to try and kill the real Bitcoin. And then someone else came along that he empowered and tried to kill his coin with another faker version of the fake version. So, third tier fake. And, it's like that didn't have to happen, right? Do you think Satoshi invented a system to remove trust and rely on signatures so that he could personally require trust and give no signatures? Doesn't make any sense. He invented something to do the opposite, right? Proof is cheap. We have encryption. We have signatures now. You don't need to take people's words for shit. Which is why you keep getting fake Bitcoin inventors all the time. Now, I will say, and this is a controversial opinion I have that people don't like, I think Satoshi is deceased or a bitch. Vitalik invented Ethereum, and he's standing on stage, and he's not the most buff-looking dude, okay? He weighs maybe 100 pounds. And he stands on stage as the founder of a cryptocurrency and isn't a coward and doesn't run away and still writes software and still writes improvements and still donates to charity, supports Sens.org, trying to save your life with longevity research. He does all those things, and he doesn't hide away like a little bitch. Now people say, oh, well, Satoshi did what, No, he could do, if he was alive, he could do the same thing. I'm sure he ain't smaller than Vitalik, right?
Okay. Now, first of all, whoever Satoshi is completely fucking insignificant. We know all the people who were involved, right, in the development.
He's got 1 million coins. He's still got 5% of the supply.
Pardon?
It matters. He's got 5% of the supply. He's still got 1 million coins.
That's fine. Craig Wright was around. There's a whole bunch of people. Now, you can buy some authoring software for $79.95 to run against the Satoshi white paper. And every single person involved in this, by the way, has written multiple technical papers. If you look at it, you don't need any software. Let me just tell you. If you look at the white paper, you'll notice two very unusual things. Number one, all of the spelling for words which have different spelling in American and English, and there are about 5 words in there that do, have the British spelling. The second telling thing is, after every sentence are 2 spaces. Now, this is a minority choice for people who write. But you check it out yourself. Look at the white paper.
I agree. You can also do timing analysis.
There are only 2 of the people that could have been involved, which are British, and only one of them double spaces after a period. Fuck me. Look it up. I mean, people going, who is it? It's easy.
So you can also do analysis of what hours he posted to Bitcoin Talk. And that, so a lot of people try and be anonymous on the internet, and then there's an attack vector they're not aware of, which is a timing attack. So if you do real-time communication, and you say, hello, Richard, and I say, hello back, John, they know that you and I were communicating because my response was so short in time next to your transmission.
Yes.
So if you really want to be anonymous, you have to use different words and introduce random delays in responses.
That's a possibility, but why implicate one of the other players?
Yeah, sure. But the thing is, once again, Vitalik said this on stage, it makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like Occam's razor. The easiest way to prove that you're Satoshi is to sign from an old address. Now, it still doesn't prove that you are, but it sure eliminates a lot of other people from contention. And if anyone else is trying any other method that's not the simplest one, then they're trying to bullshit you. So if someone is telling you a lot of words that take hours and hours and hours when they can make a signature in 10 seconds, they're bullshitting you for a reason, right? The signature is the thing that the entire system requires.
I might have been misled, but if you use full authoring software, it comes out 99% who Satoshi is. So $79.95. I only get a $25 commission. I'm being funded this now.
By the way, when I first started, I put 2 spaces after periods because when I first started typing, I typed on a real typewriter, and that's what you did when you typed on a real typewriter. So it's kind of something that old people do.
I'm not saying. All I'm saying is there are only 2 British people, only one of them have double spaces in all of their papers.
But you're restricting the set of people to people that were on the mailing list for a cypherpunk mailing list, right? That's where you're using as your input set. For your input set of possible Satoshites, you're using the mailing list of cryptography, the cypherpunk mailing list, right? That's your input set?
No. I'm just using those people we all know were involved, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, but that's where we know them from. That's where that list comes from.
There's a history to this. There's less than a dozen of them.
Because that's the mailing list.
Every single one has written multiple papers. Dr. Adam Back has written over 100, for fuck's sake. Randomly grab one and run the analysis.
So we talked about who makes the most money. What have you made the most money on? I won't answer that question. I guess I will. It's probably Bitcoin.
What's the question?
What have you made the most money on? Crypto. Which crypto? You don't have to answer. That's like a personal bullshit question. I would not expect you to answer that.
Well, good.
Okay.
Next question.
But I mean, if you're already all in and you're like, fuck it, I'm not paying taxes anyway, come and get me. I mean, really, you could fucking say whatever you want.
I know, and I said what I wanted, which is nothing.
I feel you, man. So what do you want to see go up now? Like, what are you doing? Are you shilling? I mean, I'm wearing a fucking Hex t-shirt. I'm shilling. What are you selling?
My biggest project is the McAfee DEX. Okay. It came out 3.5 weeks ago. We carry every token on the Ethereum blockchain now. Next week, we'll be adding Tron, EOS, NEO, and Binance before the first of the year.
And anyone can add anything they want, right?
Pardon?
Anyone can add any address they want, any token they want, right?
As long as it's on the blockchains we're supporting. Yeah, right now, we're in beta right now. So the beta test we chose Ethereum. Why? It's got the most volume, the absolute most number of coins, from ERC20s up to ERC 1440s. So we'll be doing cross-chain transactions the second quarter of next year. We charge no listing fees. If you want to list a coin, you press the button at the top of the page, put in the technical specs, you're listed. We take no information from anybody. We don't ask for your name, your email address. We look at no documents. We don't care if you're in America or Siberia. It's all the same to us.
Is it custodial? Do you guys hold coins or?
No, fuck no, we don't hold things. That would give us control, would it not? Absolutely not. Non-custodial.
Well, you can't exit scam if you're not holding any coins, right? So.
What's that?
You can't exit scam if you're not holding any coins.
No, we're not holding it, and we hold nothing. Absolutely nothing. These are all smart contracts. Our logic is smart contracts on the blockchain.
Do you know how much volume you're doing? Or you don't know off the top of your head?
We're not even looking right now, but we're trying to fix the bugs that are coming from the volume. Okay, yep. That's the purpose of the beta. I mean, you can do as much as you want with a development team of 15 or 20 people, but you can't test. You can't really test something like this until you put it out there. So
it's amazing what users can do to a system that's supposed to work well.
The first thing was speed. It took us 40 seconds to load the home page when we first started. We're now down to 3. We're down to 3 seconds. Next week we'll be down to 1 second. So these are the things we're working on now.
Right.
But no, we're non-custodial. We have multiple portals. If you have a domain, you want to run a web page, we will set up your portal for you for $395.
So you're talking about white labeling the DEX for people?
Pardon?
You're talking about white labeling the McAfee DEX for people?
Yeah, you could say that. And if you do that, all the traffic that comes through your portal, you get 0.5% of the transaction. It's all shared. I mean, everything that comes in through every portal is all on the blockchain, so everybody sees everything as soon as it happens. So anyway, I'm doing this just as sort of a thumbs up to the authorities that be in this world to say you can't do this, you can't do that. So when they come to shut me down, I want to say, gosh, I'm so sorry. I was stupid. I made this smart contracts on the blockchain. It can't go away. I don't know. I wasn't thinking. I never thought that you people might want to know something. That's what I'm saying. And in turn, they say, well, we're taking the domain, McAfeeDex.com. I'll go, I give a flying fuck. We already have 30 portals. We have 100 by the end of the year and 1,000 by mid next year. So I don't care. Can't be shut down.
Right.
Can't be controlled. It can be monitored, of course, but only if they know your wallet address and who you are. Be cautious.
Yeah, and I just tweeted today a tweet that I saw from Vitalik, which was, if you want to mix Ethereum, and you could also mix ERC20 tokens or whatever, I think. I've never actually used this thing yet. You can go to tornado.cash, and it's like a mixer for Ethereum stuff, and then your stuff goes in and it comes out anonymous, and then you've got that extra layer that you might want.
Absolutely.
It's probably easier than going to Monero.
Listen, we're working on all kinds. You have no idea the shit we're working on, and we're not saying anything.
Well, I could, because you could tell me.
And I promise you, when we come out with our shit, you're going to be truly surprised. You're going to be truly.
It's too bad.
This is a beta. we never imagined the shit that can go wrong in a distributed exchange of this nature. So
it's too bad you guys don't have a big Bitcoin cold wallet, because in the token that I made, I give it out to free to people that have Bitcoin, and I would try and pitch you guys on claiming on the behalf of users and taking a referral fee, which is 20%, and then they get a 10% bonus for having used your referral fee.
Now, Bitcoin is going to be very difficult for us. It's going to be difficult for anybody to do a distributed exchange of Bitcoin, just because it's older. The architecture does not support what we're trying to do. Yep. But we will solve this problem. It's just going to take some time.
Did you ever look into the coin I built? Or have you not? I built a token. I built a coin. Did you ever look at it yet?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. No one told me about it. Listen,
you should do it.
I'm an old man that can barely remember my name.
Well, if you've got a stack of Bitcoin, I give you free tokens. So if you like free money, go to hex.win and get your free money. Not bad. I worked hard. It cost me a lot of money to give you free money.
I'm sure I did. Well, that's too bad. Too bad I sold all of my Bitcoins at the extreme bottom of the bear market. Oh, well.
You should have let them sink in a boat accident, man. That's what everyone else does. You send the dinghy out with your treasure, and then it sinks.
Yes. What else do your users want to talk about?
Well,
your followers.
I don't know. Let's ask them. Hey, guys. They're on like a 30-second delay because I shoot 4K, so it takes time to re-encode and transmit to them. Hey guys, we can talk about anything you like. We already talked about who Satoshi might be. We talked about who made the most money in crypto. We talked about designer drugs and chemicals. We circle jerked a little bit on how cool we are.
Absolutely no questions about the allegations that I ate those children. I'm sick of dealing with it. I've answered this question.
What about the whale sex?
The which one?
The whale sex.
The whale sex. We can talk about that. That's not a problem. But listen, I was drunk at the time. I remember nothing, so I can't help you guys.
So I guess. So let's play this game. I have a theory that I think can help onboard everyone to crypto. And I don't think there's actually another way to do it. And I'm going to try and... So let's see if we can do that. I think we need a lot of advertisements, period. And I think the only people that could buy the ads now are exchange houses, which fuck the user with fees, and lose your data, and email your name to everyone else, and seize your funds, and that just is terrible. That's why DEX is so much cooler, because you guys can't lose anyone's money. You don't have any other money. So that's a great innovation. So the only way that I can think of to be able to afford to onboard new users is to actually have enough of the supply that when the price goes up enough, you can sell a little bit and make more than it costs to bring the guy on board. I don't think you can actually onboard new users without fucking them with fees, unless you control enough of the supply. There's no way to be cash positive.
I think you might be right. I mean, the other solution that I've considered is if we get all of the hookers and prostitutes on our side.
They're already on there. Once they ban Backpage.
Get them to not do any work whatsoever unless they're paid in cryptocurrency. I promise you. Within 2 weeks, every male, and therefore his family more likely, will be involved in cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I guess another side angle would be to use other services that have high adoption rates. But this is where a throughput problem actually does hurt, because we could not, with the throughput we have on any blockchain whatsoever, support Clash of Clans' economy, a single freemium casual game. We couldn't do their economy on the blockchain because of technical limitations. So even that one's a little bit hard, right? I mean, 100 million users a day, doing how many transactions per day? Let's call it 10. That's what, 1 billion transactions a day for one game, singular? And then how many games are out there? It's going to be a hard one.
I know, it is indeed.
Yep.
All right, I think we have time for one more question, if there is one. because I've got another interview coming up.
I love that you talk to everybody. Like if someone's coming up and they don't have a following or anything, I will see that they have done an interview with you, and I think that's really nice of you, because you're one of the heaviest hitters in the space. So I think that's real cool of you to do interviews with people.
All right. Any questions on your screen?
McAfee, did you look? No, somebody's showing something else.
They want to know about the children I ate, don't they?
2 million baby? And we could talk about, okay, I'll just ask my question. Are you going to eat your dick in 2020 if the Bitcoin price is not $1 million? Or are you going to squeeze your way out of it and say that someone else is going to eat your dick on your sponsorship or something? That's all.
Well, definitely the second. I mean, I'll need to consult with my lawyers about what the protocols and rules are.
Get a clone. Look, make a clone of yourself, and then you can use them for harvest. You can harvest his organs and everything, man. Just make a clone of yourself. When you have a heart attack, you can just take his heart. Just make sure he's not smarter than you, and then you've got a movie situation where he tries to take over your life and then kill you.
Well, the other thing was to hire one of the great stage musicians. I mean, I'm friends with a couple of them, and to arrange the stage so that it would look like it's being cut off, but I can't find a single one who's willing to touch my dick.
Yeah, I think Penn and Teller could sort you, man. You just get on the phone. He's a libertarian. Penn Jillette.
I know.
Definitely hook you up.
I know. I met him in Las Vegas in 2016 when I was running.
He's a tall fucker, ain't he? What's going on with your president? He's a tall fucker. He's like 6'7" or something, I think.
God, yes, is he tall? I mean,
so what's up with your presidential race? And that'll be our last question.
Well, it's still on. I mean, we have we're still up and running. We have regional coordinators. We're negotiating with the Libertarian Party. The party leadership doesn't like me. I don't blame them, quite frankly. Nothing about me that's in their favor. Nevertheless, as a Libertarian membership who've paid $25 dues, I have the right to throw my hat in the ring. And I think I have enough support within the party, if nothing else, left over from 2016, to make sure that I appear in those debates that matter. John Stolten, for example, and so on.
The mustache, yeah. I would love to see you debate.
We know. I mean, if anybody out there thinks I really can become the U.S. president, then stop the Rangers.
I would assign it a low probability.
Yeah, impossible. There's zero probability, people. So I don't want that job. I don't think it matters who's president. I really don't. Right. I mean, you get elected, you're there for 4 years, 8 maybe if you're lucky.
Yeah.
The people who are managing you and advising you and providing information to you have been there for 30 and 40 years so often. And to them, the real controllers here, you're just the next guy. Here's the next guy. And okay, what are his qualities? Let's let him do this. So you sit in that chair, you have 1,000 strings attached to you. The CIA, the FBI, the NSA, and none of them are going to tell you jack shit. You want to find out if there's aliens in the world? I promise you, presidents will be the last to know.
Yeah, there's a story about that. Everyone, even Clinton went in there, and that was one of his things. And then as soon as they get in, you never hear about it again. So whatever they're telling them, it shuts them right up.
What they're telling them is you don't have a need to know. For national security reasons, Mr. President, if an emergency happens where you need to know, I assure you, sir, you will be the first alerted. Yeah. This is control. Good God. And I've had a blast, by the way.
I've really enjoyed it. Everyone go to McAfee 2020 if you want to see his presidential campaign. I think his Dex is McAfeeDex.com. Is that it?
McAfee Dex or McAfee Dex, however you want to pronounce it.
If you want the free tokens that I made for you, they're free. Go to hex.win, and that's it. And I hope to see you again.
I'm going to go buy some Bitcoins just so I can get your fucking tokens. Is that all right with you?
You know what, man? If you're a referrer, I tell people they can double dip and get a 40%. You tell people to claim their free tokens, you get 20% kick on it. Then sell them for ETH, and then turn them into Hex. You get 20% again. You get a 40% round trip. It's pretty good. It's good seeing you, man.
Yeah, I want to stop what I'm doing. I mean, clearly this is much more profitable.
There's not that many ways you can make $1 billion in a year, and crypto is one of the few. The founder of XRP was the richest man in the world in 2017, and one of us might be the richest man in the world in 2020. We'll see.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much.
See you
guys. Bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. This is Richard Hart. You may know me from my pitifully small Twitter account where I have 50,000 followers. With me here is a real man, John McAfee, who has 1.1 million followers, which is 20x more. He's been at this longer than I have. He's, my biggest company was 150 employees. How many employees was your biggest company? Do you remember?
I don't know, a few thousand. Way too many. Way too many to be fun, I'll tell you that.
Yep.
And by the way, I'd like to point out how it's become so common to rate people according to their followers, according to the likes, according to their retweets. I find it very, very humorous in many respects, and that's hardly the measure of a person by any stretch of the imagination, other than, oh, I know that name.
Yeah. It's interesting, so people have less deep connections now and more shallow connections. So if you look at who people marry, back in the old days, people would marry within, a 20-mile radius of where they lived, because that's the only people they met, right? And now people, they hop on Tinder, and people end up marrying people that are thousands of miles away. And it's changed a lot of stuff in the culture for the worse. So, if you're on Twitter, as I often am, they measure how many.
I think that's good for the gene pool. I really do.
That is, yes. I agree with that.
The smaller the community, the more inbred it becomes. Mm-hmm. I mean, ultimately, if you live in the Appalachians, way off in the mountains, the only people you know are your cousins, and that's who you marry. I mean, so
yep.
I think it's good. It's good for the diversity of the gene pool.
I agree with that. From the dating perspective, it is better. From the synergy and business perspective, it's better. But from the consumption of human consciousness, and you look at how humans spend their time now, they spend all of their minutes staring at a screen, hoping for the dopamine hit of the likes for people that they'll never meet, that if the shit really hit the fan, maybe some of them would be there. And so these companies, there's surveillance capitalism, and then there's attention capitalism, and they're consuming all of our consciousness. And then there's nothing left to create. There's nothing left to be you when you spend all day consuming someone else's ideas.
I like your phrase, consumption of human consciousness, because really I'd never quite looked at it quite at that depth, but that's exactly what it is. You walk into a coffee shop and people don't even bother to look up anymore.
Right. They're terrified to.
They stay glued to that flat machine. And if you think that little screen is not going to evolve into something which not just consumes consciousness, but imparts ideas and actions. I mean, you're doing it already. I mean, if you're driving, how many people bother to look at a map anymore and draw a route? No, you key it in, and then you obey that sweet little voice. Turn left here, go 2 blocks, make a right. And by the way, I just wish someone would sell one of those things with options, like a humorous option.
The George Carlin voice.
Something like, good God, asshole, I told you to make a left. That's the 3rd left you've missed. Shit like that. Right?
It's the saddest part of all of it. They get all this data about you. So Google now knows everything you search for and reads all your email, because I got 15,000 signups on the email, that's 17,000, and I see who the emails are. They're mostly Gmail addresses. So they know what you're searching for. They know where you physically are because they own Android. And if they didn't own Android, they own the Google searches and they own the Google Maps and they own Fitbit. So they know your heart rate. So they know when you're looking for porn, what porn you're watching, and when you catch your nut. This is not... And then after they do all of that, they still give you shitty untargeted ads anyway. So, yeah. So you do a search for a humidifier and you buy one, And now they show you humidifiers for the next 6 months, like you're collecting the fucking things, like you need 10 of them. It just doesn't make any sense.
I think I'm going to enjoy this.
So what would be awesome is if companies made money not trying to suck up all your time and still found the synergy to show you products that you wanted to buy and then let you be free and to go do other things. It'd be better for everyone. Companies would make more money. The human would have more free time. You'd be able to watch. It would just make everything better. And it's just silly that we're not there yet.
But hang on. But someone would sneak in with something brand new and steal more of the consciousness.
Could be. Yes, it could be. Yes.
This is corporate greed. This is how it fucking works. There's never enough. I don't care.
It's true.
If a company is making a profit of $100 billion a year, that's not enough.
Well, the funny part is that if the CEO attempted to be more humanist and save the humans, so for instance, if a CEO of a company produced a terrible product and knew that his competitor had a better product, in an ideal world, he would say, listen, our product sucks, you should buy that other one, we'll do our best to do better. But the shareholders could sue him for not acting in the best interest of the company. So even if a CEO wanted to do the right thing, the fact that he's beholden to the shareholders means that he can't. So he has to use dark patterns, and he has to lie and frame things so that his bad product looks good.
I'm not sure that's the only option. I mean, I've been in this situation many times. If it were me, I'd go, Jesus God, that product is so much better than mine. Someone schedule a meeting with their CEO.
Right.
And then I'd walk in with my bravest face and my, the best cards that I can play. And I'd say, let's cut a deal. Buy my ass out. Or I will ravage your heels forever. Come on, that's how
it's true. Yeah, look, it's
that's how it really works. And then, you explain to the shareholders, I'm sorry, we fucked up. Our development team, I fired them all, and the ones that didn't leave, I've shot. So that's no more problem.
We know that if you started shooting your workers, they would live because they're all wearing body armor. So you'd have to be very targeted with where you're shooting them. You got to aim for the throat, basically.
Yeah.
This is for the people that know, John. So in my idea of life was always, okay, I want to try and live forever if I can, but I'm no good at dieting. I'm good at exercise now, but just lifting weights, not the cardio. So half of fitness and no dieting. So if I'm going to survive, I need technology. That's what I need. And now I think you're 74, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So John's 74. He's fitter than I am. If you see him with his shirt off, he'll take pictures and put his shirt off on the internet. I'm not doing that. I don't want you to see what's under here. He's happy to show off his body. He's even got crypto tattoos. If you're gonna get to 74, you've got two options: try and make it last as long as you can, or go out. Hello there.
G'day Richard and g'day crypto goers, I'm Adam Stokes. Very special episode tonight. He retired in 2003 after an immensely diverse entrepreneurial career, starting with car stereo installations and sales from his front yard.
Starting. Hello there.
G'day Richard and g'day crypto goers, I'm Adam Stokes. Very special episode tonight. He retired in 2003 after an immensely diverse entrepreneurial career.
Hello everybody, it's Richard Hart here. I just want to let you know that the pulsechain.com main... Starting. Hello there.
G'day Richard and g'day crypto goers, I'm Adam Stokes. Very special episode tonight. He retired in 2003 after an immensely diverse entrepreneurial career, starting with car stereo installations and sales from his front yard at 18, also known as Audio Ecstasy, before moving on to other adventures including Internet Marketing Masters, Triple X Toy Joy, which sounds like fun, Lead Feeds, Wibout, and more. He started GPU mining Bitcoin in early 2011, back when the block rewards were 50 coins per block and achievable without being part of a pool. That would have been nice. He's lived all over the world, has more than 40,000 subs on YouTube, 52,000 followers on Twitter, and is the author of 2 books, including Sci-Vive, of which we're talking about more tonight. He says he's retired, but like a true entrepreneur, he'll never really retire as he continues to give through education, conversation, and creation. His latest project is the creation of a crypto like no other called Hex, of which I personally spent weeks researching to create an in-depth review on my own channel. See the link below. He's so diverse in his knowledge across so many fields, it's no wonder so many people want to learn from him. Richard, I've been looking forward to this for 2 years. I'm humbled and honored to speak with you. Welcome to the channel.
Hey, it's the best intro I've ever heard. You packed in, real facts, things that people could Google. I like that.
Well, as I mentioned, I've been listening to your stuff for years, and I kind of hate it when they start and say, can you introduce yourself? I think that's a bit weird. I think if you're giving up your time, they could have at least give it a little intro. But
agree with
that
you.
Aside, yeah, good on you. I hope to, as I mentioned in our conversations before, I hope to do this very different to the other in-depth conversations you've done on your...
Starting. Hello there.
G'day Richard, and g'day crypto goers. I'm Adam Stokes. Very special episode tonight. He retired in 2000.
Hello everybody, it's Richard. Hello everybody, it's Richard. Starting. Hello there.
G'day Richard, and g'day crypto goers. I'm Adam Stokes. Very special episode tonight. He retired in 2003 after an immensely diverse entrepreneurial career, starting with car stereo installations and sales from his front yard at 18, also known as Audio Ecstasy, before moving on to other adventures including Internet Marketing Masters, Triple X Toy Joy, which sounds like fun, Lead Feeds, Wibout, and more. He started GPU mining Bitcoin in early 2011, back when the block rewards were 50 coins per block and achievable without being part of a pool. That would have been nice. He's lived all over the world, has more than 40,000 subs on YouTube, 52,000 followers on Twitter, and is the author of 2 books, including Sci-Vive, of which we're talking about more tonight. He says he's retired, but like a true entrepreneur, he'll never really retire as he continues to give through education, conversation, and creation. His latest project is the creation of a crypto like no other called Hex, of which I personally spent weeks researching to create an in-depth review on my own channel. See the link below. He's so diverse in his knowledge across so many fields, it's no wonder so many people want to learn from him. Richard, I've been looking forward to this for 2 years. I'm humbled and honored to speak with you. Welcome to the channel.
Hey, it's the best intro I've ever heard. You packed in, real facts, things that people could Google. I like that.
Well, as I mentioned, I've been listening to your stuff for years, and I kind of hate it when they start and say, can you introduce yourself? I think that's a bit weird. I think if you're giving up your time, they could have at least give it a little intro. But
agree with you.
That aside, yeah, good on you. I hope to, as I mentioned in our conversations before, I hope to do this very different to the other in-depth conversations you've done on your channel and other channels. So let's get into 20 quick questions before we deep dive into other stuff. You cool with this?
Sounds good.
All right. The challenge for you is to try and keep it as short as possible, and then we're going to go way down the rabbit hole of everything that is Richard Heart. All right. Number 1, are you Satoshi?
No.
2, excluding Bitcoin and Hex, what's your favorite crypto?
Ethereum or Monero.
Wow. 3, who is your mentor?
Don't have one. Everyone.
Wow.
Everyone that's got something that I can learn from. You can learn from stupid people. I mean, if you're not an example, you're at least a warning.
Cool. 4, beyond your YouTube subscribers and employees, who is your mentee?
I've had quite a few that were able to read the Sci-Vive book or hear some of the things I've said and do them. A lot of people listen and then they don't do the thing, and then they don't fall in love with the stuff because they don't know how good it is because they're not doing it. There's maybe 5 or 6 guys that really have done what's in the book and have taken my advice and have changed their lives for the better. And they're, true diehard fans because I changed their life because they were willing to take advice. They take my advice better than I do. If I took my own advice, I'd have a 6-pack, right? So it's, it's mostly they're mostly the reason that they're the best mentees, because they have the best drive to do things.
Yeah, I found that when you're I've been very lucky in the crypto space. I've had a few people mentor me, one in particular, and as a result, whenever he gives me any homework, so to speak, I strictly make myself do it, because he's giving so much of his time to me. It's in both our best interest to make sure that I actually do what he's given to me. Otherwise, he's just wasting time.
Right.
But we move on. Number 5. What's your daily driver? Uber?
Lately, it's just greed and stress. So, I mean, I wanted to launch Hex at the bottom of the bear market. I figured the bear market would be similar to other bear markets and last about 2 years, and we would spend some time at the bottom consolidating. Instead, we didn't. We just went down and went right back up, and it ignored all resistances on the way back up. So the horizontal support turned resistance at 6K. It didn't resist, and it went right through. And it did that at every point along the way. Bitcoin's never done that before, and that was with no Google searches, no premiums on futures, no premiums on anything for the majority of that run. It was weird. So, it looks like I didn't get to launch at the bottom. Now, the good news is a lot of people bought the bottom because they thought we were closer to launch than we ended up being. So awesome for those people, Last time I tweeted out, hey, who's happy that they, bought Bitcoin in the 3,000s because they were waiting for Hex to come out? Got something like 90 or 100 likes. So at least I assume 90 or 100 people did pretty well. Yeah, I don't remember the question. What was the question?
We've gone right down the wrong path. Maybe it's my accent. I said, "What's your daily driver?" As in, what's your?
Oh yeah, so I'm like stressed for time because I'm pissed that we didn't launch earlier. And
no, what are you driving? Like, what's your car? Like, you're rich, so what do you?
Oh,
what do you drive?
I don't drive. I don't fuck with it
at all.
No, I don't bother with it. I used to drive a lot. I used to have a twin turbo Lexus and a lot of other toys, BMW M3 convertible, stuff like that. But I tend to push things to the edge at which they can be pushed. So if I get a car, when I park, the brakes will glow red. So like the brakes on my M3 and my Lexus, when you park, you could literally take a photo of the brakes glowing red, which is something you usually only see in an F1 car. And I'm just doing that driving around the city. That's not healthy for the city or me or my driver's license. So as I've gotten older, I figured it's wiser for me to not have cars that I want to dip in to see how far they can go. And you're going to live longer if you're not driving around. So
you actually, a bit of a digression there for me as well. I remember when I lived in Korea, there was a guy who drove every day, and we went to go out clubbing, and he had no car, and we went in a taxi. I said, "Where's your car?" And he said, "No, I had to get rid of it. If I didn't get rid of it, I'd end up killing someone." And that's because his American style of driving was somewhat different to the good South Korean style of driving, and he was experiencing too much road rage, and he's like, "You know what? I'm going to end up in jail."
Right. Yeah. I mean, so I've had a lot. I've been into a bunch of accidents. Maybe one of them my fault. Maybe. And like, you just get injured, and then you have like neck pain, and it's. The stuff that is good about life for the most part is at the end of journeys. The food you want to eat is not in the car. The movie you want to see is not in the car. If you want to make love, car's not the best spot. And it's just like, if you can spend less time in transition and just live closer to the things that you like, or bring things to you, then you don't have to pollute the environment, risk killing people, risk killing yourself. The more time you spend on the road, the more likely you are to be maimed, crippled, and injured. There's really not a lot of upside to it. It sounds fun, feels fun. Roller coasters are fun too, and you're less likely to die on them. So maybe go to the theme park.
You know what? As I get older, being Australian, it's a pretty big country. It takes a while to drive across the country, and I used to drive heaps, especially at night. I didn't care, but after hitting 3 kangaroos in a very short period of time, I'm like, you know what? I don't know if it's just getting older, but I don't like driving at night anymore.
So no Holden SS Commodore for you then?
No, I've never been into that.
Right.
You've been to Australia. I'm a Beamer man through and through, and part of the reason why I drive Beamers is German cars, that is. I'm just really big on the safety. Yes, they're nice. Yes, they're pretty, but I like being surrounded by 10 airbags and all the technology. And comparative to a Commodore, no thanks. Yeah. All right, next one. iPhone or Android?
Well, I kind of got into Android because you used to not be able to have a Bitcoin wallet on iPhone. So I'm still kind of an Android guy. I do recognize that iPhone has better security. So if you want the encrypted security module in an iPhone is the best. It's better than the Android stuff. So
and that's the same with PCs?
Well, no, PC you have to be a Windows guy if you do most things like live stream or any type of gaming whatsoever. There's just so many apps that only run on Windows, and then Linux is a nightmare. I use it because I have to develop code, but if I didn't have to compile binaries and other crap, I would never ever use Linux ever, because nothing works on it, and the things that do work on Linux barely work. If you ever install something, you have to read 5 guides and fix 5 dependency issues before it works. It's a nightmare. And I've never used an Apple computer. Like, I used one in elementary school 20 years ago. Longer, maybe? So, yeah, I don't give a shit about the non-upgradable hardware, more expensive, slower computing experience. I'm not interested in it.
Yeah, I know people get very passionate about it, but when I was at uni years ago, we used to have both PC and Mac labs, and I used to purposely make myself go into the Mac labs just to keep up the Mac skills, but in the end...
I mean, you can leave them run longer. You don't have to reboot them as often. That's nice. They don't come with as much scummy advertising wear. That's nice. I mean, they've got upsides. They've got the best battery life. There is upside to it. Good hardware.
Quiet and cool.
Well, yeah, if you have less power, things are cooler and quieter.
Are you left or right-handed?
Right.
I actually pictured you being ambidextrous.
My father is, but I'm not for some reason. If I broke my right hand, I might be, but I never broke my right hand. Well, I actually did break my right hand. Yeah, never mind. I'm just not.
I did it as a kid, running across desks, fell off, and I was so scared of the teacher, I didn't tell her, so I stayed at school with a broken right wrist until I got home. Most pain of my life.
That happens every time I break something. People don't believe it's broken because I'm not crying like a bitch. I'm like, no, it hurts a lot. It really does. And then you go and get your x-ray and you're like, yeah, that shit's broken. Did that with my leg and my arm.
All right, we're nearly halfway before we go deep diving. Here we go, some political stuff. I think I know the answer to this, but I want to hear you say it. Are you more left, right, or centered on the political side?
I made a video of this called Treat Your Politics Like Your Sandwich, and why elect the crappier of two evils. Basically, when you order a sandwich, you're going to have like 8 variables on there. And if you can remember those 8 variables, then you can remember the only 8 variables people care about when you tell them your politics. So I'm against invading people for no good reason. I think it's a huge net cost. I'm against fake security theater where you do lots of surveillance and little investigation and little enforcement. I think weed should be legal. I'm so basically socially liberal, fiscally conservative. And then I just, if you go through that video, it'll tell you every single one of my positions, because everybody's wrong on something, right? So like, the conservatives who aren't conservative at all, they spend like crazy. They created a new branch of government called the TSA that does security theater, and Homeland Security, which does security theater. And all the people that they're stopping at the walls just fly over on visas and stay on airplanes. Like everyone gets something wrong and everyone gets something right. Every single political branch, pretty much. So if you chose one or the other, you chose wrong, because it means you're wrong in half the shit, pretty much.
Okay, that one I actually haven't seen. I have to check it out. But as we go down these 20,
I wrote a book on it too. So if you go to the Sci-Fi book, there's a second book called Fix the World. So Sci-Fi focuses on stuff you can change. Fix the World focuses on stuff you can't change, but it's important, systematic stuff.
Just to digress on that, I really big into audiobooks. You're going to release these on audio, like on the Sci-Vive. Certainly, you can press the icon that reads it, but it's so clunky.
Yeah, one day, Hex first, and then Sci-Vive.
Roger. Okay. What makes you laugh?
A lot of stuff.
The Simpsons guy?
Simpsons is alright. I haven't watched in a while. I mean, I just watched this movie called, this Seth Rogen movie called, it's like Knocked Up. That was hilarious. I thought Knocked Up was funny as hell.
Check it out.
It's on Netflix. Yeah, I laugh pretty easily when I'm not, like, under the watchful eye, you know, like having to present myself well or whatever. I take crypto seriously, and so I get more serious when I talk about this stuff. But I'm not talking about this stuff. I'm pretty jovial. I'm okay with a good fart joke. It makes me smile.
I've been watching a lot of your stuff, and there was one question that someone asked you. It was a while ago. You had a group chat, and actually a girl jumped in, and she asked you, "Tell us some of your sex tips." And
yeah, and I answered.
We got a smile out of you for that. You went down to the blood pressure road. I thought that was hilarious.
It works.
So what makes you mad then?
Oh God, that's an easy
Besides
one
Satoshi,
too.
What makes you mad?
Well, you know, I'm not partial to people that don't listen. Like if I tell someone to do a thing, they should do the thing. And a lot of times you tell someone to do a thing and they have a good story for you and a whole bunch of talking, a whole bunch of bullshit, and you're like, no, just do the thing. I don't care about the story, you know? People find it very hard to follow instructions for some reason. Pride, lack of good habits, I'm not exactly sure.
You your team with the Hex, just this is a slight digression, but the team with your Hex, are they going all right? It's everything I did a review on Hex a while ago.
I think we had people that could do a very good job, but just wouldn't and kept delaying things. And so we just chose new people. So our UI is being done by another guy, and he's had a lot of experience launching other things that have been audited and successful and such. And it's just happening. So every day you look, there's new code and there's new functionality, and the progress is very clear. That's a nice experience to have when you're a project leader. You know, I'm the one that has to make sure that everything meets my vision. And when I can build a new front end on, you know, by following the instructions and see new things that are complete and work, and then hand those out to people to test, that makes me feel very good. So right now we have front end code that performs all the functions, except claim, which might be done today, because you have to like sanitize the data inputs. Sometimes you pay something that's in all caps, sometimes it's not in all caps, and some signatures come with prefixes and some don't, and there's all these different permutations you have to account for in the claim process, kind of behind the scenes. I'm happy with it. I mean, I can't ask for much more. The contract's like done. We've run out of things to do on the contract. It's basically ready for audit. I'm just kind of playing around modeling users to just make sure the curves look like how I want. And I am worried about going to audit and then having like a surprise. Hey, we have to add an index for this one thing for the front end to make it easier to display this data. And then I don't want that index to like invalidate my audit. It probably wouldn't, but the auditors prefer code that's just locked. So I'm kind of trying to time it. I'm trying to delay the audit by like a few days, maybe a week, so that I can make sure that we don't need to make any changes to support the front end stuff, because we might find some front end thing we wanted to add. But I mean, I don't know, maybe I go to audit this week, maybe 2 weeks. We'll see.
Cool. I look forward to speaking more about Hex with you.
I could teach you how to build the contract, host it on your own local blockchain, and make a stake, open a stake, close a stake, claim funds, do all that magic stuff. Like you could do it on your own computer.
So, what do you do when you're to unwind in your this is number 11, by the way, before we go down to talk about your book, and also want to talk about dating as a millionaire. But what do you do to unwind when you've got spare time, if you've got any? Not driving.
Watch movies. Watch live streams. There's this dude that's hilarious. I used to play this video game called League of Legends. It's cancer. Don't ever play it. But if you have the misfortune of having played it, then you'll appreciate watching this live stream from a dude named Tyler One. He's goddamn hilarious. He's just insanely funny. He's the funniest live streamer. The funniest live streamer used to be a guy named Dr. Destruction or Dr. something. It's just the Doc. He was hilarious, but then the games he played started to suck too much, so then just watch Tyler every once in a while. It's great because you can just leave it, on the background and wait for something awesome to happen while you work. Because it's the thing. So there's two theories of working, right? One theory is that you can have nothing and just do the work, and that's awesome. Then the other theory is that like a part of your brain that if you can just get rid of it and make it stop trying to get you to do other things, then you could do the work. So some people do well idling with something kind of playing while they work that makes them feel like they're wasting time, but really they're working. And then I guess some people do well with just like only the work in front of them. They both can be effective.
On gaming, I remember you talking to Doug Polk. It's over a year ago, I think. And there was something in that interview that really stuck in my head. It's quite profound. I was actually even thinking about it in the lead up to this discussion. You spoke about cards like gambling, poker, and computer games being a zero-sum game. And I remember, actually, it was in Korea. I'm pretty good at poker. I'm not great, but I certainly understand the game well. And when I went to Korea and played in this tournament as a mediocre player, because I went there against very poor players, I was actually very, very good at it. And I remember being in a tournament, and it came down to head-to-head, me and this guy. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I had to go to school the next day. And even though I probably could have won, I said, look, do you just want to split the pot? And this guy, even though I was up, he's like, yeah, let's do it. That's great. And some people are like, you could have won that. And I'm just thinking, no, I'm just wasting my time here. And then when I watched your video with Doug Polk, it was years later. It actually reinforced that. And the same sort of goes with computer games. Now, of course, some people play computer games and become rock stars at computer games, and it's a very small percentage. But you used to be a gamer, and you weren't getting much out of that.
Well, it consumes all of your consciousness. It deletes you as a human being, pretty much, depending on the game you're playing. So if you're playing a game that's a narrative story and has a beginning and an end, and you put maybe 8 hours into it, okay, cool. That was 8 awesome hours that was better than a movie. Fabulous. If you play a game that involves grinding, and like Clash of Clans, all those casual games, if you play something on your phone, you're fucked, because they're all designed to suck away your consciousness and make you do repetitive tasks, which if you think about it is what you would do to destroy a foreign culture or demoralize a foreign army, is suck all of their ability to be, useful on the battlefield into dicking around with their phone. And then you can go take their girls and their land and whatever else you want to do because you destroyed them, right? So when you spend all your time consuming someone else's narrative, you are not you. You want to get to a point where you can make your own narrative and other people can follow your path that you trailblazed, and they can follow behind you. If you spend all your time doing what other people have programmed for you to do, you're kind of like their slave a little bit, right? So it's fun. It's just like salt on food. It tastes great in moderation, right? It's just like showering. It tastes great, or it feels good, but you want to get out of the shower sometimes. You don't want to just live in the water, right? So if you spend your life gaming, like I did, where you'd wake up, start playing, and play until you couldn't keep your eyes open anymore. Well, if I measure what I got achieved in those years, I got some cool icons for my character. Could have done anything else, Yeah,
you see those kids who play, literally they die. The mum goes into the room and finds them dead on their keyboard.
Yeah, and they've got teams of psychologists that spend all day figuring out how to separate you from your money and your consciousness. And so they just throw people into the meat grinder for profit. That's what casual gaming is. That's what loot boxes are.
Here's a tough one for you. I really enjoy how you talk about, well, enjoy is probably a bad word when I'm talking about someone dying. So you spoke about Jobs dying with lots of money. And
Steve Jobs.
Yeah, and that money could have been put into researching a cure for his own death, or preventing his own death. And it got me thinking to this question: how much wealth is enough?
Well, it's the wrong question. So you're presupposing that enough exists, and I mean the easy, witty answer to your question is more. So the way human beings are wired up is that we are meant to achieve a goal, desire another goal, work towards it, achieve it, and keep doing that over and over again. And the only way that that works is if you're never actually satisfied with the previous goal. You have to keep increasing what you want, increasing your circle of influence, right? So you learn more, get more, learn more, get more. If you didn't do that, you'd be outcompeted by people that did, right? So we're kind of the result of stuff that works. And what works is this ratcheting effect of a staircase. And no one's happy with pay cuts. Everyone's happy with pay rises. No one's happy with being weaker. Everybody wants to be stronger. Nobody wants to be slower. They want to be faster. And that's how it works for all animals and everything that you see around here. Other systems have been tried where you could like things that suck, and you disappear, right? It's just like hoarding stuff. People like to save things and collect things. Why? Well, if there's ever a shortage of things, you got the thing, and maybe you needed that to live, right? Maybe it was food, or so you're not supposed to be happy forever. If you do that, you become a hippie, and the Chinese come take your land. So the Chinese are taking all of Tibet's land because the Tibetans didn't screw enough and make enough people and be warrior enough to protect themselves. And so their happiness and control over their minds allowed them to be more chill, and now they're getting beat up because they were too chill. If you look at the amount of medical research and technology or weapons research and technology that comes out of Tibetan monks, it's jack shit because they're sitting around feeling good. And sitting around feeling good gets outcompeted by trying hard. And so the tryhards, right, the Mongols and their offspring, have more control over what the world looks like now. And, you know, you wouldn't be surprised if that culture just disappeared at some point due to being outcompeted, right? So it's not free to be a hippie and happy all the time and, you know, smoking weed and just sitting around, right? I mean, there's a cost to it, and, you know, it's somewhere that's nice to visit. It's not somewhere you should live. If you magically find the way to make progress and be effective happily, excellent, good for you. I think the most productive people in the world, for the most part, ain't that happy. They're kind of tortured souls, and they need to produce to try and feel less of that pain, you know. Producing a book is hard as fuck. It's you in the paper, you know. I guess Elon Musk had a good quote from one of his friends that was, you know, having a startup is like chewing glass and staring into the abyss. Well, yeah, you know, yeah, kinda. There's some fun parts too, right? But there's a lot of suck as well. I mean, look at Hex, right? It should have been out a while ago. And I have when I give time estimates to people, I'm not actually estimating how long things are going to take. I'm estimating what the likelihood is that I can get a small set of humans to do what they said they would, and that their guesses were accurate, right? So they had to guess how long something was going to take accurately, and then actually do the thing, right? And it's hard, like predicting. You know, people have health problems. People have stuff that pops up, and in software, you don't really know what you have to do until you start trying to do it. So you're trying to, like, I'm better at making price predictions than I am at making, is this guy accurately predicted how long something's going to take when it's not even predictable, right?
On those price predictions, in your last video, you mentioned I think it was an $8,500 bottom of the next Bitcoin dip. You still think you've been very good with your
Yeah, I feel good about it. I mean, it's the 50% Fibonacci retracement of the parabolic advance from 3K to 13.9, 3.2 to 13.9. It's the 40% bull market parabola maintenance bottom level that we don't violate in bull markets, or haven't. If you go back and look at the 2017 bull run. What else?
Is McAfee's estimate in the ballpark?
So McAfee bet that he would eat his dick if it didn't go up to $1 million next year or something.
End of next year, yeah.
Yeah, it's an unlikely. When you make these types of predictions, the farther your prediction is from the current price, the harder it is for that to become true. You can see that in options prices. So if you think Bitcoin is going to go over $100,000, I can link you to some place where you can buy an option, a call option, to purchase it at $100,000. Now what that means is, I think the call option costs like maybe $2,100 or something. So for $2,100, you have the option to buy Bitcoin for $100,000. So if it went up to $150,000, then you would make $150,000 minus your $2,100 cost minus the $100,000, which would leave you with $45,000 or something. And then there's a time frame. It has to do it in a certain time frame. So you can use options markets to put a chart and show what people believe the price will be at certain times. And then you end up with like a heat map of here's where the price is, and then here's where people thought it would go. Some people thought it would go up this high by this time. Some people thought it would go this low by this time. And you can chart where, people think things are going to go. You'll find that no one's confident buying $1 million call option, right? So if McAfee was serious about his eat his dick for $100K, he would be borrowing money to buy those $2,100, $100,000 call options, and then when his prediction came true, he'd be extremely, extremely wealthy because options give you the highest return on investment. Like, you put in the least money and get the most money back using options. It's the most leverage you can get.
He certainly stands by his word. In a recent interview he did, it looked like he was on a boat somewhere. Someone asked him, and he still stood by his prediction. But I now wonder, which goes on to our next question about Libra. One way or another, Richard, do you think this thing will go ahead?
It's about 50-50. If you guys want to look at options, go to richardhart.win, and you can deposit Bitcoin and see what the call options cost and the put options cost. And then you can...
Including for Libra? Well, it's
not for Libra, just Bitcoin.
Yeah.
There's Ethereum stuff on there too. So for Libra, it's 50-50, it never launches. There's a lot of things that large companies want to do that they end up not doing. And since Libra says repeatedly, there's very few things that you could get them to actually commit to in the public questioning that they had from Congress. One of the things they would stick to is, we're not going to do this unless everyone's happy with it and everyone signs off on it. Well, I don't think they can get that. I don't think you can make a room of people that hate you sign off and like you. I just don't think you can get it. So if they're true in what they're saying, I don't think that they're going to get a letter from the SEC that says cool, and a letter from the CFTC that says cool, and a letter from every committee of Congress that says cool. I don't think they're going to get those letters. So either they're going to have to not do what they said and launch without people being happy, or just not launch. So, and then there's other bullshit going on with that. They let everyone believe that they received money from people to become members of that association, and then we find out no one gave any money. You're like, what the fuck? That's a big deal. That's a big difference, right? Paying $10 million and not paying $10 million is a really big deal. And then you hear other things like, Visa and MasterCard are partners, and then you hear they're not partners, and you're like, well, these are big changes, right? Because that's all they are. It's a white paper, and then the only thing that really mattered is what large entities put in money, and were willing to play along. But now if that stuff's all backed off and you just got a white paper, there's a lot of white papers, bro. I'm kind of pissed off about the changing landscape of the news around that.
Yeah, you see, I agree that I think it's doubtful that you'd get all the American powerhouses to agree with it in the political space.
When have they ever done that for anything?
But what would stop an organisation then just going offshore? Yes, it's registered in the States, but when you've got that much fiscal options and power and reach and global footprint, why not just be a Nike factory and start making, so to speak, or figuratively, shoes in a different country?
Well, they already presented that argument in Congress. They said, look, if you guys don't let us do it, you're going to see it happen from somebody else that doesn't have our same values. And what they're really saying is China. What they were really saying was, if you don't let Facebook do it, then China's going to do it, and Alipay and WeChat are going to do it. So you can either have the American one, and then they alluded to, you can eyeball the American one, and we'll give you whatever data you want. But if you don't let us do it, then China's going to do it, and they're not going to give you crap. That's what they meant. So.
Or I wonder if even if Facebook would just still do it, but based in another country.
I think they're scumbags. I mean, I think they're scumbags, but they're scumbags concerned with profit, and they're probably not that happy about the multi-billion-dollar fines that they've received. They received a $5 billion fine for their Cambridge Analytica scandal crap. Well, that hurts the bottom line a little bit. $5 billion fine sounds pretty big. Sure, they make more money than that, but basically all they care about is not getting fined or not getting antitrusted. That's the only two things they actually care about.
I did an interview with a futurist called Dr. Richard Haynes the other day, and in one of his predictions, he was speaking about eventually Facebook will be Instagram, and then in 10 years, both Facebook and Instagram will be dead. And
Facebook bought Instagram already.
Yeah, and that's what he's saying. It would merge into, and you mentioned it, I think, in one of your talks recently, and you were dead right. I feel is where you said you don't want to be on the same platform that your parents are using, and years ago, I remember I was in some random course, and the instructor said, "Oh, Facebook's dead," and I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Because my kids told me that Facebook was dead." And that was a while ago, and you can see over time the shift away, and the children the younger people say, well, they make the decision. They are the future, of course, figuratively and literally. And I think about what that instructor said in that class. I think about what you said in your presentation. I think about what Dr. Richard Haynes said in his prediction. And then I think about what's happening in Congress. And, maybe this is the beginning of the end, but with 2.5 billion people using it monthly, it's a long way to go down.
I don't use that shit, and I'm happy that I never do. It's garbage. And they email me every day. Hey, please log in, please. There's something going on. Please log in. It's so disgusting. It's like, no, I'm not going to log in.
They've got me with one last thing that I've got to try and get out of. I play baseball, and my whole baseball team, when they communicate on Messenger.
Yeah.
And if I don't use Messenger, which is, an arm of Facebook, I'm kind of left out of this conversation. And
yep.
And I actually don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to convince an entire... It's not just team, it's the entire club. How do I tell them?
Yeah,
exactly. So that's my last bit of involvement in Facebook. But once I can get out of that, I'll feel free as a bird. The question 15. How many hours a night do you sleep, Richard?
7 to 8, depending on how much I ate the day before. So if I don't eat that much, then I don't need that much sleep. But if I do eat like normal or more, then 8 is good.
Most inspirational leader to you? In all time?
I don't really have any. I mean, there's a lot of people that did a good job, but that's kind of what you expect them to do. Yeah, I don't really have any. I mean, there's a lot of good quotes from people, but...
Cool. All right, here we go. This one could be tough. Single greatest life decision you've ever made?
Start my own business. That just cascaded into greatness, So
was that with your car stereo one?
Yeah, that was the first one, yeah. I mean, in theory, I guess I got my friends to go door-to-door selling, like stamps and envelopes and stuff out of something that was in the back of a comic book. There was like some comic book thing in the back. Is that or back of a Boy's Life magazine? But I think it was a comic book. So that was, I guess, my first business.
And on the other end of that spectrum, your single...
Or no, I sold candy in school too. It's like I would sell people candy in school as well. So maybe that was my first business.
Did that make money? So what, you buy like a big bag and sell it individually?
Yep.
Mate, I actually did that with my younger brother. I remember we went to the shops, we bought all these bags of lollies, and then we actually set out, I don't know what we're thinking, like kids obviously, we set out at the very front of the shop, like at the front door of the shop, selling back the shop's merchandise individually as like per in little one from the packet. And the shop owner was actually cool, he let us carry on. But when we went to store up, yeah, it was cool when I look back.
Dude, in the United States, they would choke you out and kill you. That's how Eric Gardner died. Eric Gardner was doing the same thing. Big black guy was doing the same thing at the front of a store in New York, and they killed him for it. So
that's where the cops were holding him and he's saying, "I couldn't breathe. I can't breathe."
Yeah. So he was selling cigarettes by the onesie twosie out of a pack,
right?
And died for it. So that's the difference between commerce in America and commerce in Australia. In America, they fucking kill you.
Mate, we had just last night, literally less than 24 hours ago, we had a guy in a house near where I live, which was very random, and they were trying to evict him, and he didn't want to go, and he got drunk, and eventually the cops came, and he went to stab one of the cops, and it turned into a 12-hour siege. Where the
in America, they just light him up.
Agreed.
Super dead.
Yeah.
Oh.
And in the end, they were just waiting, and they just wore him down, and eventually they took him out in handcuffs. But I lived in America for a while, and I remember once walking home. I lived in Malibu, Las Vegas, and Colorado. And this one night, this is a big shock to me. This was my first exposure to the American policing state. I'm walking home from a party in Fort Collins, Colorado. I'm walking back to Colorado State University, and these two cops, I was walking home with this girl. It was lovely night in Colorado, and these two cops like ambushed me from bushes. It was weird. And they said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Whoa, I'm just walking home." And we were literally just walking home. And they heard my accent, and they said, "Where are you from? Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm just from Australia." And they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Man, and I was freaking out. I'm just like, man, I'm just on exchange. I was just at a party. I'm just walking home." And they're like, "Have you been drinking?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I was just at a party." And I was like 24, so I was over the age. And then they said, "Oh, you've been drinking?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Oh, well, we could arrest you for being a container." And I said, "What?" Now, by this stage, they had separated the girl from me. And they were basically, she told me later that they're saying, "Do you know this guy? Is he harassing you?" And she's like, "What do you mean? We're walking home. We're just at a party. We live on the same floor, in the same dorm, on the same campus, at the same university." And it took ages and ages before they eventually let us go. And that was my first real exposure to American policing. And it really, not so much that I was scared, more that I was disappointed. I thought, wow, here I am walking down a footpath, not yelling, not driving, not throwing bottles. I'm literally walking down a path. And I had two cops jump out and really, if you will, rough us up, not physically, but certainly verbally.
Maybe the cops were banging each other in the bush and they got mad that you caught them. That shit, like I've had similar situations where they just ask you more questions that are reasonable, and you're just thinking to yourself, ain't you got anything better to do? I mean, these questions are retarded, and I don't know. I mean, sometimes late at night they ain't got nothing better to do, and they just feel like fucking with somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I can think of about his mentioning container laws.
I think we've been evolved to, sitting around the campfire or sunsets, red filters. Even these lights I've got, as I talk to you now, that it's got a brown filter or a red filter on it. If I change it, it gets to white, and that's a horrible color.
Interesting.
And if we go to that one,
I like that one better.
Yeah, it makes me look like a tan.
Yeah, I agree, man. The tans are nice. It was really nice speaking to you.
You too,
I'll tell your viewers everywhere they should go. Download the SciVive books, t.me/SciVive. Go to the Hex Crypto channel, t.me/HexCrypto. We also have t.me/Strape and Strape Charts and Richard's Calls. Those are free price calls, which I'm thinking of not making free anymore. I don't know. I'll just focus on Hex for now, probably. But at some point, throwing good information to the world is like, all right, well, I'll just charge there. Now, if you like my stuff, pay for it. If not, you don't need to know it. Might do that. What else? Free book, free trading chat, free normal chat, crypto chat. If you want Hex shirts or stuff, you can look at the demos of the store. That's in t.me/Hex Crypto. Follow me on Twitter, Richard Hart Win. Follow me on YouTube, Richard Hart. Hex Crypto Twitter is Hex Crypto. And I'm leaving something out. Donate to sens.org, SENS. Yeah, I guess that's it. Or if you want to trade, go to richardhart.win. You could do options, you get 10% off. You could do futures. You could do, perpetual swap. There should, I have everyone looking at this 8,500 target to buy the dip. We just dumped like 6% today in a candle. So price is 93. Let's take a look. 94.40 right now, with a bottom so far of like 93.20 or so. That's what it looks like. Hello everybody, it's Richard Hart here. I just want to let you know that the pulsechain.com mainnet has launched, and pulsex.com on that mainnet has launched as well. I hope you guys are all enjoying it. We waited a couple years for this, and it's finally here. Well, I guess YouTube's doing their job because we already got some visitors in the chat here. I was hoping that YouTube would pop me a nice kind of longer lasting link for this stream. But since I don't see one, I'm just going to spread the Richard Hart /live YouTube one. I'm going to put it on Telegram. I'm going to tweet it. And then when people click it later, who knows where YouTube will send them. If they were smart, they'd send them to the recording, but we'll see. If you want, you can take over. Doing their job because we got some visitors.
Let's go ahead and start. We start the show with you saying hello. This is Richard Hart, and then I'll come back to you in about 4 or 5 seconds.
Hello, this is Richard Hart.
And this is Gary Leland, and you're listening to episode 92 of the Crypto Cousins podcast. Howdy, 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 Richard. Welcome to the Crypto Cousins podcast. Had to give you a Texas howdy there.
Hello. Can you believe I've only been to Texas once? It's a big place. Should go more. Houston.
Well,
it was nice.
That's a big city.
Yeah.
Yeah. Houston's about 6 hours from me. I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
That's a long distance.
It's a big state. I was telling someone the other day, I drove out to West Texas, and I'd driven about 6-7 hours, and I still was in the state. I was talking to someone from Europe, and I said, in that amount of time, I could have gone to 4 countries.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, because she was talking about how she spoke so many languages. I said, well, sure. You got to. I mean, within an 8-hour drive, you've got 5-6 different countries that speak 5-6 different languages.
It's weird. It must have been really hard to get around way back when languages are developing, Because you get, I mean, even Spain has 4 or 5 languages in there. It's not that big of a place.
And you got Spain and then Portugal's there too.
Yeah.
I mean, so you got, that's a lot of languages in a small area. When you really think about it, it's kind of surprising that because, I mean, they've had civilization there like forever. So it's hard to believe that didn't kind of mesh more into one.
Yeah, the only thesis I have is the same reason we're different colors. It's just hard to get around way back when. People would be born, live and die within a couple miles of the same spot because transportation was so slow and risky and expensive that people just didn't bother doing it.
Well, using that thesis, now that travel is so easy, in 200 years we will have one language.
I give you I got two interesting ideas on both of those topics. They're not really crypto, but maybe you have a longer than 30-minute interview. Trust was very, very, very important when we had delays in communication. So if you needed someone to go somewhere and negotiate something on your behalf, he would never be able to call you because phones didn't exist. He had to just do it on its own. And trust was super important. But these days, trust is actually laziness because verification is simple. Oh, you say that you've got a thing? All right, well, send me a live stream of you playing with the thing. Okay, no live stream? Scammer, go away, right? So nowadays, trust hurts relationships more than it helps them because you leave openings for people to become worse people and do bad things. I've lost a lot of friends from giving them an opportunity to steal from me. And had I not given them that opportunity, they would be better people today. So the more trust but verify, which really just means verify, that we get, then the friendlier we'll all be. Good contract, good paper makes good friends. If there's holes in the paper and there's holes in the contract, you destroy relationships. It's like not having a prenup. If a woman or a man has $1 million reason to think your jokes aren't funny anymore, you're not going to be funny anymore. So if you align the goals from the start, then your jokes tend to be funnier longer when there's not $1 million reason for them to cease to be, right? So my thesis is that due to increase in communication speeds, it devalued trust to where trust is pretty much harmful now because verification is so cheap. And as far as a global language goes, I fully wish that everyone spoke one language. I'm very partial to English because we do make the best films, the best books, the best science, the best research, the global reserve currency. We have the most words. Most of the new words are in English. So, it's easy to say I wish it were English because I only speak English, but I don't. I also speak Spanish. So, and I prefer English.
Well, I think in France, don't they meet like every year or so and change English words and make up French versions?
Terribly
because they want to
wasteful.
keep the French language.
Yeah, so they're pretty nationalist about that. I mean, Quebec in Canada wants to basically stop being part of Canada rather often to maintain their cultural heritage with their French language, and it's illegal to put up English signs there. Fact check me on that, but I know there's lots of laws regarding non-French signs there.
Well, before we get any further, I would give for my listeners, I think many of them tend to listen to more podcasts than watch videos, and you're really big on YouTube, and I want to make sure they know who you are. Could you give us like a short 2-minute, 1 minute
sure.
bio?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Richard Hart, multimillionaire genius. Been retired since 2003. Started my first business out of my front yard selling car stereo equipment, and then got into search engine optimization, shopping carts, mortgage leads, scaled it up to about 150 people, did 60 million a year in revenue. Margins were pretty good. Internet was just kicking off at that time. That was before you could buy AdWords on Google. Google didn't have an AdWords program. There was no pay-per-click. Which is funny because now that's like all of their revenue.
Yeah, I remember those days.
Yep. And I don't think the web has gotten any better, oddly enough. It's more bloated now. So if you want to put up a new website, you've got to use a framework, and the framework is pure bloat just to do animations, and we don't need animations. It's just text and pictures, right? Or in our case, YouTube, it's video. And we don't need all these stupid frameworks like Bootstrap and others to encapsulate pictures and data and make it so that we have this so like in the old days, the Bible wasn't printed and you couldn't get your own copy. and you probably didn't know how to read. So you had to go to the priest that would be the middleman between the Bible and you. And it left, all the problems of middlemen. They charge fees, right? And they do things wrong. They introduce risk. And so that's what we have on the internet today, is if you want to launch a website, it's become so complex due to stupid animations that you have to go to these middlemen, these gatekeepers, right? So you either put up a blog on WordPress.com or, put up a page on Facebook or something. But in reality, they're just middlemen. They get in between your pictures and your text and the users that want to see it, right? So WordPress is kind of neat because they basically open sourced their content management system that let everyone with a basic knowledge of computing, put up a nice looking website that works pretty well. And I guess we've got that in retail now with shops like Shopify and others. I have no idea why I'm losing my voice here. I haven't been talking much. Just staying up long, I guess. Long nights.
Well, when you do an interview, it's only like usually 3 hours. So
yeah, I got a lot to say. Like I know a lot about a lot, and it's interesting and cool stuff. So.
When did you first get on the net or start building on the net?
My first website was Internet Marketing Masters. This would have been 2001, 2002, something like that. You can look it up on waybackmachine.com, archive.org. Fact check all these cool things I tell you.
I started back in '96, my first e-commerce, and the thing I used to like about it then was, well, we didn't have Google and Yahoo was around, but you, like for instance, on InfoSeek. Do you remember InfoSeek?
A little bit before my time.
Yeah, and the thing that was so cool is, okay, you'd have a white background with I had a wallpaper website, one of the first wallpaper websites on the net, and I'd type the word wallpaper in white on the white background 100 times, and I'd be number one. And then I looked the next day and I was number 3, and I go, the hell with it. And I'd added like another 400 times, and then I'd be number 1 again when I refreshed the page.
I used to do SEO for a living. I know all that interesting stuff.
I don't even call this SEO. I just call this stupidity that you can manipulate it that easy. But
I think they penalize meta tags now.
Huh?
If I were a search engine, I would penalize meta tags. I'd be like, oh, you want to rank for this, which means you're most likely to be lying about it. So it's the worst data I could get. I would penalize you for meta tags now, and I would just use PageRank and what other people were saying about you. But PhDs that are better at it than me are probably already working on it.
Well, I think that would be a better way. Hey, thing I really wanted to get into, though, was Bitcoin Hex.
All right. Well, it's not called, we dropped the Bitcoin out of there because there's no reason. Okay. Bitcoin doesn't need free marketing from us.
Okay,
Bitcoin's a $60 billion project. They can go do their own marketing. They don't need to leech off of my effort.
But it was Hex. Bitcoin Hex originally, right?
Yeah, it was. And it's really, 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 really hard to get a good brandable, pronounceable, not misspellable domain name. It's very hard. So if you look at, and not just domain name, but brand, if you look at the most profitable publicly traded companies in the world, their names have nothing to do with their business. Apple does not sell apples. Amazon does not sell vacations in the Amazon. Alphabet does not have anything to do with the search engine. That's the parent company of Google and all the Google things. eBay, there's no bay, right? So once you realize that the most successful companies in the world paid dearly, millions and millions and millions of dollars to rebrand, right? So Google wasn't always called Alphabet. They paid dearly to do that pivot to a new name. And, back when pay-per-click was popular, there was a company that did all the pay-per-click for Yahoo, and it was called GoTo, but it was like GOTO. And there was other website called GO2, and it was confusing. So what they do, they rebranded to Overture. Why?
I remember that.
Yep.
Yeah. I used to have a pin from Overture they sent me for doing so much advertising with them.
Yep. They were the first guys to figure out that you could take all of the profit from a customer acquisition away from the retailer and just give it to the search engine. And that's what search engines are today. They take your profit you make on your first customer, or maybe the first few months of total customer value, and they just give it to the search engine. Because people keep bidding against each other until that's the emergent property. Is that the search engine makes, if you do pay-per-click on like mesothelioma lawsuit, it's like $50 a click. It's absurd how much money search engines make by being the filter by which you don't see sites. Because that's what a search engine does. It shows you not sites. Here's all the sites. We're not going to show you all the irrelevant ones. So we get to choose what isn't relevant, right? And it's dangerous because if they frown upon you, your life's over. Like, if you get banned off of Amazon, Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, whatever else, pretty hard for humans to know that you still exist. It's risky. It's very risky. It's not good.
So Hex is the name now. You got a great looking logo. I know that. You're a marketing guy.
Yep.
You know, obviously.
Can I ask you a question? Are you recording this on your end for audio still?
Yes.
Because I'm getting reports of lag on my end, and I want to stop recording locally and see if it helps.
Oh, that's fine. I'm recording.
It shouldn't make any difference, but just in case. Yeah. Good luck, guys. I hope that helps. I don't know why it would lag. I mean, you guys can watch this at 360p. You don't really need to see my my wrinkled shirt in higher res.
Let me know when you're ready.
Well, I mean, I'm still streaming. I'm just getting reports on lagginess. They can survive it.
So you ready to go back?
Yeah, we're still live. I never stopped streaming. I just stopped recording locally. So you'll have to use for audio. You'll have to use your side.
That taken care of before I interview Jay.
Yeah. Now you do have audio on your side, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Because I stopped recording on mine. You'll still have the YouTube version of it.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Right.
So Bitcoin Hex, you're marketing it as the first high interest CD on the blockchain.
Yep.
I'm correct. Mm-hmm. Can you kind of go over that with me?
Well, sure.
And explain that to me, because like I said, I'm really interested in Bitcoin Hex.
So we want to get rid of middlemen and make the world work better by giving people value, in the case of storing value and transferring value, at lower cost, with higher trust, with lower fees. That's the whole game of crypto. That's what it's all about. And if you look at what crypto is actually being used for, the blocks are empty, they are not full, and the blocks have pitiful throughput. So if we filled the blocks, we'd still be doing almost nothing. Since the blocks aren't even full, we're really, really doing almost nothing. Now, the good news is that because this market is so gigantic and there's so much money involved, that doing almost nothing can still be worth $60 billion or more. We were worth $300 billion at the end of 2017. So a lot of people confuse my narrative that I issue because it's accurate and nuanced, and they confuse me for being a bear. I'm not a bear. I think that the price can go to new all-time highs like it always has, and you don't have to make a lie or an excuse and pretend that 4 million users is good. You should be excited that you can get to a $300 billion valuation on Bitcoin with less than 4 million real users. You should be very excited about that. That shouldn't be bearish to you. That should be bullish. But you should also be accurate. 4 million users sucks. Clash of Clans has over 100 million a day. Bitcoin's been around for 10 years and has 4 million total. Now you could say, oh, but what about the guys on the exchanges? Bitcoin was designed to get rid of middlemen, not your keys, not your coins. If you're using an exchange, you're the reason that we get these XYZ exchange hacked and X number of millions of dollars lost. Triple-digit millions lost in hack. We keep getting those headlines because people don't use crypto for what it was designed for, which is to get rid of middlemen. If you're not holding your own keys, you're part of the problem, right? So let me unwrap this. Crypto is currently only used for speculation. Why? Well, it's pretty simple. If I want to buy something on, let's say, the world's most popular retailer for English speakers, Amazon, do they accept Bitcoin? No. Why not? Why would they? It would reduce their conversions. What do you mean it would reduce their conversions? Well, there's this thing called the paradox of choice. Every time you add a new payment option to a user, it reduces the likelihood for them to finish checking out. More payout options means less completed sales. That ain't good, right? So what if you did decide to confuse them anyway and have reduced throughput or reduced checkout completion? Then they have to rebuy their crypto. And what happens when they have to rebuy their crypto? They don't have to, by the way. They could just dump it and not get back in. But let's assume a positive feedback loop where crypto is adopted and they get back in. Now they've got to pay the bid-ask spread on the order book or some other type of transaction fee. And if you go to an ATM, they're about 10%. Maybe you get a deal at 6%. You just paid 6% for the privilege of not having chargeback protection, not having an extended warranty, not getting cash back, not being able to do subscription where they just keep pulling every week, right? Not being able to get credit. You have to have the money ahead of time. That's a lot of suck to receive for paying 6 to 10% more. So why would Amazon accept that, right? I was going to tweet yesterday, hey, what was the last big retailer we got on board? But I hate being bearish because the price can go up anyway. So if I tweet something that's accurate, like, hey guys, no one's working on adoption, and then they interpret that as price down, then I'm misleading them to some degree. I don't think enough time has passed where the bottom might be in, maybe 50-50. We're still under very strong resistance here. And we're crossing a 50 to 200 day golden cross very far away from the cross point. So where the averages will cross is, $1,000, $1,200 underneath us. Usually that means that we die. So when we have a golden cross or death cross and the price is very far from that cross average, we tend to revert back to it. And we did this in the last bear market too. We had a 50 to 200 golden cross, dumped 70%. And then we had another golden cross and it dumped 40%. But then that was the last one, and it was at $300, and it was just bullish forever, right? Up to 20K pretty much, with the occasional 30, 40% dip, which every quarter, I guess we get one, every 3 months, I think. So, point of the story. Crypto is used for speculation. You can dream and fantasy and mindfuck yourself into thinking that it's not, but it is if you measure it. It's being used for speculation. There's tokens that don't even function properly that have high values. That ain't adoption, that's speculation, right? Now, is that a problem? No, it's fine. You know what else is used for speculation? Gold, stock market. You think people are buying stocks because they don't want to make money? You think they're really interested in Coca-Cola? They believe in it? They're like, the world needs more sugary drinks. I'm a dentist and I want to see more cavities. No, they buy everything that's traded in a market because they want to make money. And it's honorable and it's enough. And you should be happy that whatever you have goes up in price. And unless you're robbing people, it's very likely you're making the world a better place. Now, we do have hiccups like, Theranos and Enron and companies that misled people. But if you're not being fraudulent and you're honest with your offering, by and large, investing in finance and new experimentation leads to new products which make the world a better place. So, speculation's enough. The price can go up with few users. 4 million users is still terrible. There's less than 4 million Bitcoin wallets that have $100 in them after 10 years of existence. And that number is pretty much going down. It used to be a little bit higher because I guess people are combining their wallets to save on fees, or maybe the bear market too, or both. What else? So what's a multi-trillion? If the game is to get rid of all the old legacy guys with their crappy systems and their crappy rules and their high margins and their risk, if you want to get rid of those guys, you got to do more than currency, because finance is more than currency. There's multiple trillions of dollars in time deposit saving products in the United States. So the CD, the certificate of deposit, which internationally was more commonly called a time deposit, depending on where you live, has multiple trillions of dollars in it right now, just in the United States, with other countries having trillions of dollars as well. Number 2 would be China. That market of locking up money now to get more money later is unserved by crypto. Unserved, multi-trillion-dollar market. If you have programmable money, the first thing you should program is interest. Right now, in Bitcoin, if you want to make interest in Bitcoin, You got to send thousands of dollars to some foreign country to buy some piece of hardware that mines Bitcoin and makes you slave to an electric company and makes most of its profit, half of its profit in the first week you receive it due to increasing hash rate. That's a shitty system. Now, that shitty system exists in Bitcoin because there's no better way to do it. We need proof of work because proof of work is the only way to verify what someone said was true. So what they do in the animal kingdom. A bird that's got fancy feathers and big chest, well, he's got extra calories. That's how he got that big chest. And he's got extra feathers because he's just burning energy, right? He didn't need that energy to survive. He's got a surplus. Look at his surplus, right? If it was free to vote and vote multiple times, you couldn't trust someone's vote. People have to get one vote. And the only way to ensure someone gets one vote is to make it expensive. And the way that we make it expensive in Bitcoin is to be slaves to the electric company. Now, if you can piggyback on an existing system where people are already paying those miners to be honest and giving them a block reward, then your system piggybacking doesn't need to give them a block reward too. They're happy just with the fee. So in Bitcoin, new Bitcoin is inflation, about 4.18% currently. In the halvening in a year, it will go down by half. Instead of giving that money to miners, who I don't know how many you've talked to. I haven't talked to that many. Apparently don't speak much English and don't have much interest in speaking to you. And we're happy to see a corporate takeover during the SegWit 2X battle, which, unless you're very technical, you may not understand. We give that money to people that hold their coins, that don't dump the price, and the longer you hold, the more you get paid, just like in the real world.
Hex.
With Hex, right. So it's a hybrid. We pay our equivalent block rewards, our inflation in the system, just to people that are holding. And we don't have externalities sucking down the price like power companies and chip manufacturers because we don't have proof of work for block rewards. The only externalities that we have in this system are we're not paying electric bills, we're paying some fees, and they're very low fees. Because in a system where you're designed to hold for a year, 2 years, 5 years, you don't need a lot of throughput for transactions. You have one transaction at the beginning of your 2-year period, 1 year, 30 days, you can lock whatever you want, right? And then you have a transaction at the end. That's very low throughput for very high economic value. So we don't have to pay the miners much to do that.
So you give that money to the people who stake.
Right. And then if you stake, the money that you're being paid always exceeds the inflation rate, always. So the reason inflation sucks in most currencies is because it's being given to people that's not you. There's a lot of money printing going on in most currencies. In Bitcoin, it's being given to Bitcoin miners. You're not a Bitcoin miner? Oh, well, they're just going to dump on your head to pay their electric bills. And so for 10 years, miners have been dumping on Bitcoin holders' heads to pay electric bills. And it hurts the price, it doesn't help it. The more miners that compete to make the network more secure, which is funny because it's not actually more secure, it just has higher hash rate. You're still completely open to all types of attacks that aren't hash rate based and are more common, right? So we've had inflation bugs that we've narrowly dodged. Someone could have exploited one of those attacks and it has nothing to do with hash rate at all, right? And hash rate does nothing to protect you against those types of bugs. So, the security that having more hash rate offers is not actually that good. It's okay. Yeah, it's better than nothing. But is it worth paying out huge, giant percents of the currency? I guess, because it worked out. But when this other thing works out too, when it has a better security model. So like every time people upgrade their network EXEs in Bitcoin, there's settings that they get to decide. How big blocks do I want to accept? What's the minimum fee I'm willing to accept to, make a transaction, let it get into a block? And do I want to keep this halvening thing? It is not written in stone that the miners need to just cut their profit in half in 400 days. Now that's what's scheduled. That's what's likely to happen. That's what I'd like to see happen. But if the miners decided, hey, actually, we're just not going to double-click the EXE that has our profit cut in half. We're just going to double-click this EXE that keeps our profit the same. And if you want to go make a fork and have a minority hash rate tiny chain with your new little guys that are butthurt and mad because we changed the economics, well, you can start your chain that has low hash rate, and then we'll just attack it every once in a while to show you that hash rate matters. Okay. Well, what are you going to do to stop that? Well, you could do a proof of work change. Okay, what are you going to change to? It's not easy, right? So
yeah, any change is not easy with Bitcoin.
Well, by design, you know. So my point is, the inflation bugs that have been dodged. We had one inflation bug that we bit and had to roll the chain back many years ago. Just dodged one, 8-10 months ago.
Right.
A Bcash developer found it with no bug bounty. He was just nice enough to let everyone know. Thanks, bud. That was real nice of you to not just get all the free money. He could have exploited it and just got free money. All right, nice. Thanks, bro. Appreciate the help. Glad that you saved these billion-dollar system at no profit to yourself. Most people would not do that, I don't think, right? People tend to do what's in their best financial interest usually. So that type of inflation bug that we have fallen for and almost fell for again, that doesn't exist in Hex because the game theory is in an immutable smart contract code that you never get to double click an exe to set some options to change how it's interpreted, right? It's just, there ain't no there's no .conf file that you edit to be like, oh, actually we want to screw up this thing. How do we screw this thing up, right? But that does exist in Bitcoin. So and the substrate that it's on Ethereum has lower fees, higher throughput, actual bounty program where people get paid to find bugs. Bitcoin doesn't have that. So, and no cryptocurrency has ever been audited, the actual chain. There's never been a cryptocurrency that has had a full security audit for its primary blockchain. In the ecosystem that we're using, we can get a security audit, and there already has been a security audit for the base token that we're using and for the modifications that we're doing. There isn't one for the whole Ethereum system still, but it's some security audits is better than no security audits, right? And this is a system that's launched multiple billion-dollar projects. EOS sold $3.2 billion of Ethereum for people that wanted to trade their Ethereum tokens for their EOS tokens, which were just an ERC20 contract on Ethereum. They sold 7% of all Ethereum tokens by volume. So BNB token, all-time highs, bear market, didn't care, pumping, right? ERC20 token. Big. Yep, ERC20 token. TRX, billion-dollar plus project, ERC20 token. So that's like $5, $6, $7 billion of value that's been launched on ERC20 token without problems, and then they just switched to their own network anyway. So EOS launched as an ERC20 on Ethereum, and then airdropped people that had that token on Ethereum to the next chain, which was the EOS native chain. BNB is doing the same thing on their own kind of federated blockchain. Both of those systems aren't really distributed. They're centralized with fewer nodes, but that's fine. If you have less attackers and you want more throughput and lower fees, okay, you can make that trade-off, right? You can have a little less security for a lot more throughput, and I support people that want to make that decision, right? You should choose what level of security you want to play at. And then, I think Tron did the same thing. I think they airdropped on their own network as well. So, TRX, BNB, EOS, all launched as ERC20s and then pivoted to their own networks. Our system, we don't want to really pivot to another network. There's no advantage for us unless problems appear. And then then we'll pivot to a network, fork it, or do one of the other 5-6 networks that supports the contract language that we use. So we do store value better. We pay holders instead of miners. We have higher throughput, higher security. It's a new token that you can get for free if you hold Bitcoin at the snapshot date.
When is the snapshot date? Have y'all decided that yet?
It's been like 50 days forever because we ran into 2 bugs. Originally, it was 2 weeks forever. So you have an option, right? When you're building software, you're like, hey, we want to support addresses that start with 3 because there's a lot of people that use SegWit. And there's some exchanges that use SegWit, and we'd like it if they wanted to be able to claim and airdrop their customers this token at a severely reduced rate. They would be reduced by 75%. They'd only have 25% of their stack left because it's in a giant whale wallet, and we have whale penalties. They should be given the option. If you want to be part of the ecosystem and give your customers free stuff and give them a reason to trade on a new pair and do volume and pay fees in your system, that's good for everybody, right? So we wanted to be able to have these 3 addresses, these SegWit pay to script hash addresses claim and pay to witness script hash. It's complicated stuff nobody really needs to know. So that delayed us for a while. And then I start getting my outputs from the theoretical modeling of what users will do with the system. And I notice that the way that it's designed, the guy that gets in the first day makes 1,000x. Oops, I overshot. So all of the game theory was designed to reward people that got in early. And as you tilt so many things to reward the early guy instead of the late guy, eventually the early guy just murders everybody else. So the tilts that we have for the early guy in our system are, if you get in, the first day or first period, you get a 20% speed bonus. If you are referred, you get a 10% bonus. You can refer yourself if you're tricky. You end up with like a 32% bonus.
And just while we're talking about that, if anyone is interested in checking out Hex, go to cryptocousins.com/Hex.
There you go.
And that is my referral program.
Use his referral link. You'll get a 10% bonus for doing it. So that all goes to early guys. Those decay. The referral bonus stays static. The speed bonus decays to 0 over 50 weeks. And not just speed, but we have something called We Are All Satoshi, where if you get in early, you get your whole stack. But every week that you don't get in, you're missing 2% of your stack, and it was given to someone else. And there's a big change that I just came up with today on that, which I'm basically explaining to you now. I haven't spoken about it publicly anywhere, just in our Telegram channel. If you want to go see us designing the future of finance, you can go to t.me/hex crypto. And, I'm in there constantly, and 2,500 other people, 2,700 maybe now.
It's a big group.
Yeah, we don't deal with spammers. We don't deal with, if people want to talk smack, we just have a smack talk channel we move them to. Don't have much of that anymore because we just have copy-paste responses to every argument people have. It's a Ponzi. It's money grab. You're like, copy-paste. There you go. There you go.
While we're saying that, let's make sure people do understand that when this comes out, when Hex does launch, this is basically free.
Yeah.
You get a certain amount of Hex for every Bitcoin. What is the ratio?
It's 10,000 to 1 before bonuses, and you'll almost always have bonuses.
So the minimum is 10,000 to 1.
Right.
And you're giving it away, so you're not like taking people's money.
Nope.
And
now,
so
this is the change.
I have a hard time with that when I hear this scam, because I don't know where the scam is since you're not taking anyone's money.
In crypto, anything that someone else doesn't own a piece of is a scam. If someone buys a coin that you didn't buy, it's a scam. Take Ethereum, right? I called out Ethereum on being a scam for a good year, right? And everything I said about it was true on the negative side, but I left out all the positive things. So, for instance, everyone that's using Ethereum's losing millions of dollars, through security bugs. That's true. Okay. Well, why is it true? Because those guys used it wrong. Did Ethereum screw them? Nope, they screwed themselves. Ethereum just gives you a lot more rope because you have more options. It's hard to lose money in Bitcoin. People still do it. Like if you're coding your own wallet in Bitcoin and you don't understand change addresses, if you don't send the leftover money back to yourself, you lose it as a fee to the miner. It's very counterintuitive to new people. So you get in there, you're trying to develop your own Bitcoin wallet, and you make your own custom transaction, and then your change disappears as a fee to the miner, and you're just missing the money now. It's just gone. That's about the biggest mistake you can make in Bitcoin that's Bitcoin's fault due to its design. Ethereum gives you more rope. You can make more mistakes. You can let someone else destroy your contract using a destroy command because you didn't tell it to be private, not public function. You can use a bad implementation of multisig that someone else built and then someone destroyed that, and so now no one can get their funds, right? So if you use the parts that have done billions of dollars of commerce and never had a problem, which is what we're doing, we've got billions of dollars of testing that says this stuff works well, very well. If you venture out into La La Land and do a bunch of untested things, then you're more likely to have bugs, right? Or if you don't get a security audit, right? So it's not that Ethereum's evil, and that's the reason that people are losing money. It's because it has more options available to you. And then if you're not careful, your careless ass loses money, right? So it's, when you tell people about crypto, you have to separate utility from price, because they don't have anything in common. A lot of scams go up real high, no adoption, people just want to buy. So a project could suck. Like, for instance, if you think Ethereum sucks, I can tell you that right now, when Ethereum launched, Bitcoin was at $500. Now Bitcoin's at $5,000. That's 10x. Ethereum is up 540x. So by holding Ethereum instead of Bitcoin from the moment they launched, you're up many, many multiples of x, right? Other tokens have done that same journey upwards in x in shorter time, right? Like EOS. Why? Because the economic energy that it takes to pump a new coin with a low market cap is exponentially less than the amount of energy to pump a large market cap coin. So to move Bitcoin 10%, that's a $6 billion move from 60 billion to 66, right? To pump a new coin 10% could be $20, right? It could be 200, it could be right? So you're never going to see the same returns on Bitcoin or any large cap crypto that you can get on a smaller cap crypto. It's just mathematically not possible. You've got finite amount of new economic energy to input into the system. And if you put it into the big caps, it moves a little. If you put it in small caps, it moves a lot. So in the bull run, I think a lot of people buying garbage are going to get very rich. It makes me angry, but that's how math is.
No, and I see that completely and understand that completely.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you answered my question, though, when you think the snapshot will be.
Well, it keeps, so the story. So we wanted to add, so we were on our timer, and then we decided to add 3 addresses, and we paused the timer at 2 weeks. And then it stayed 2 weeks for so long, and I'm like, all right, let's give new, better data. And then I wrote down, this is for this phase, this is how long it takes for this is how long it takes for that. And it was about 50 days. And then we did our modeling and saw that the game theory was broken. I had tilted too many things towards paying the early guy. Now the first guy to get in gets 1,000x, and all he has done is pump the price of Bitcoin, not the price of Hex, because Hex isn't on market. So why should the Hex ecosystem over reward a guy that got in 1 day early and pumped some other coin? That's stupid, right? So then I had to do one of two things. Either change the way that early adopters were being rewarded and remove one of the insanely tilted towards early guys things, or overlay another function that rewarded later guys to cancel them out, which is a little more clunky. I think I came up with a really great way to do it, and it was maybe only 12 hours ago. I think it's super simple to do. So don't hold me to this. It's not coded. I think it solves a lot of problems at once, and I'll explain it to you. So we know that we don't want the guy that gets into Hex the first day to make a 1,000x, because it just pumps the Bitcoin price. Doesn't help Hex, right?
Okay.
So that's stupid. So when do you want people's honorable behavior of buying Hex and locking it longer periods of time? When do you want that to kick in? Preferably when it has a value of some sort on an exchange somewhere that people can accurately price the value of the future coins, right? So I think the guys that did it the best were the EOS guys. The EOS guys got the most amount of money in the least amount of time, and their token held its value after ICO in the bear market. And I don't believe in the project at all. It's It's not real crypto. People vote on whether you get to keep your money or not. They have taken money from users before, which is basically reinventing the default judgment on the blockchain. I like none of those things, right? And the whole premise of the thing, other than we just vote to take users' money away, is that they have high throughput, and we don't need high throughput, right? So blocks are empty, dude. I'm not sure why you care so much about high throughput. So I don't like any of those things. and yet they raised $4 billion of ETH, but if you look at when they sold it, they raised $3.2 billion of ETH that they sold on exchange by selling their tokens over a year with like an automated contract where if you send it Ethereum at the end of the day, so there would be a pool of EOS that was going to be given out. Now look, I'm not an expert on this. This is new information relatively. At the end of the day, they're going to give out X percent of the EOS, right? And whoever puts in Ethereum that day is going to get their share of that day. And so basically I guess it's like, a daily conversion where people just turn their ETH into EOS. Now that phase is over with. They did it for a year and you can't do it anymore. So what I liked about that system was so we've got in Hex, when you claim your coins, no one gets them but you. There's all these leftover coins that aren't claimed because maybe the guy that had them died, perhaps like Satoshi. Maybe my marketing isn't strong enough in the Asian areas to reach every holder that speaks a language that's not English. Maybe it takes time for ideas to spread, or for people to figure out that free money is awesome, right? So it's very unlikely. And we also have technical considerations. If you have a multi-sig address, you can't claim because technically it's not possible in a trustless way. So because of all those factors and the whale penalties, only about 11.4 million Bitcoin net after whale penalty. And
before we go on, what's the whale penalty? Because my listeners probably don't know.
Well, I don't think they've got 1,000 Bitcoin in a single wallet to really be bothered by it, because that's when it kicks in. But if you do have 1,000 Bitcoin in a wallet, you're going to lose half your stack. Okay. If you have 10,000 Bitcoin in a wallet, you're going to lose 75% of your stack.
So that's
and it scales linearly. Yeah, that's the whale penalty. And basically what that is, why do I want to give free money to some whale that just wants to dump it on the heads of the believers? Numerous cryptocurrencies have made this mistake and paid dearly for it. Bitcoin Cash was a fork of Bitcoin that gave 180,000 Bitcoin Cash to the Mt. Gox trustee, who sold it on market. He sold 30,000 coins of it. Why was giving free money to the Mt. Gox trustee smart? It wasn't smart, because he ain't going to buy none. He's just going to dump on your head, and that's what he did, right? So in our system, yeah, so we don't allow Mt. Gox trustee to claim. He doesn't need free money from us. He's got 160,000 Bitcoin and 160,000 Bitcoin Cash, and I'm sure there's lots of other forks he could claim if he wanted to as well. Go have fun with that, buddy. You don't deserve any equity in our system. You weren't in the chat room helping us choose percentages. You weren't spreading the good word with a referral link. Why do you need free money? Get lost, right? So what we do is we get rid of all the freeloaders, the useless guys that weren't there when they could have had utility. 2% every week, and we just keep cutting them down. And so the speed bonus keeps getting lower. Their stack keeps getting disappeared and redistributed. And the way we used to redistribute those guys that didn't claim, like probably Satoshi and all the people that couldn't technically claim, and huge exchanges, right, that have multi-sig wallets that can't claim. So the only two big wallets that I've seen that can claim because they're not multi-sig are one of the Bittrex wallets and one of Binance's wallets. I don't know, it's maybe 700,000 coins or something. It's a lot. But all the other exchanges, their wallets are mostly multi-sig, so they can't claim.
So there's going to be a lot of coins to distribute.
Right. Now, the original system was that we would give those coins to the people that staked, and if you stake longer, you get paid more, and it introduced two problems. First problem was day one guy getting 1,000x, day two guy getting a 500x, and day three guy getting a 250x. Do you really deserve 1,000x for being a day earlier than somebody else? Nope, you do not, right? This whole system is about getting a thing that is the first blockchain version of something that's a multi-trillion-dollar market in the real world, the CD, the time deposit. Time deposits are based on, there's a ratchet where they pay you more if you have over 100K, it becomes jumbo. And there's a ratchet where they pay you more for longer. They pay you about 20% more interest. So if you were getting 1% interest, you'll get 1.2%. You get 20% more interest every extra year. And it asymptotes at about 20% extra. 22.7 was the last math I did. So if you stake 1 year in a normal CD, maybe you get 1%. And if you stake 2 years, you get 1.2. And if you stake 3 years, you get 1.4. And if you get the idea, right? You keep getting 20% more until it asymptotes, because it just can't reasonably pay you anymore. Asymptote just means like it keeps getting closer to a number, but it never touches it. So that's perfect, because we already know that trillions of dollars of human decision making was totally fine with locking up longer for this much extra percent. So we already know that works for trillions of dollars. So I really like that shape of distribution and curve and bonus system, right? So we copied that roughly with the 20% more shares of the staker pool for every extra year that you stake. And the problem we ran into was, because the returns are so much higher during the claim phase, because we're handing out those unclaimed coins, that people could cheat the system by taking a shorter stake and just recompounding it outside the system. And if you did that every 2 weeks, it outperformed just staking longer. So now a guy that just kept opening and closing 2 week stakes was outperforming an honest guy that staked for longer and should have outperformed him. And to cancel out that compounding advantage, it's very hard. It's very convoluted, right? So we're like, okay, well now we have to internally compound everyone, whether they wanted to or not, and update all these fields. And then we're like, okay, what's another way to do it? Oh, we use a price nav model system, and that, like, it's so hard to try and back that out that at some point you're just like, all right, why don't we just not have this front loading problem in the first place? And then we don't have to worry about inventing some other inflation thing to cancel out that inflation thing. And so the solution was, instead of letting the first guy in make 1,000x, which only pumps BTC, we'll do what EOS did, because it worked, right? And this is just my guesstimate of what they did. You want to turn your Ethereum coins into hex? Cool. Send them to this address. Once a day, at the end of the day, it's going to print the same number of hex, whatever the ones that weren't given out. It's going to print that percent of of those that were not given out, that weren't claimed, and people can convert them, right? So you send in Ethereum or wrapped Ethereum, which is basically ERC20 encapsulated Ethereum, and then at the end of the day, you get hex out. Now what we have is, you can't, there's no like getting more for getting more for getting more for getting more. Oh, you got in first day, you get infinite. Oh, and then you staked it, you get more. Oh, and then you staked it, you get more, right? That whole runaway compounding thing, we don't have that problem anymore. And another solution that I'm pretty sure we're going to implement is, instead of paying you 20% longer, we're going to pay you maybe 10% longer, but let that compound. So for your first year, maybe you'll get 10% more, but then for your next year, you'll get 22. And for your next year, you'll get 34. And for your next year, you'll get 56. And then that mirrors what people would try and be doing by cheating the system with shorter stakes and compounding externally. So we pre-compound people's interests off the bat, which reduces the load on the system, makes it so that longer pays better, and is, to the best math that we can do, approximates the increase in interest that you get in the normal legacy CD system. So the changes basically are, instead of 20% flat per year, it becomes exponential. So a little bit less in the beginning, a little bit more later. And instead of people just getting free hex that was unclaimed and then staking it and getting more, and then staking it and getting more, and then eventually the new guy that wants to market buy on exchange and make a good return is just so vastly outgunned by all the early guys that it's harder to onboard new users because his effective interest rate's too low, right? Because the stupid 1000x first day guy. So I think that using the same system that worked for EOS will work very well here. Because any other thing that involves just giving more free coins to the guys that got free coins in the first place, it's just a rich get richer kind of thing. And then they don't even have to buy the coins because they're already satisfied with how many they got. And then what can they do if they're not going to buy more? They can just sell. Well, that's not what we're trying to do here, right? So I'm pretty excited about this new system. I do need to check over some things, right? Like, do we do it daily, weekly, monthly? Do we support wrapped F? Is it just F? Can we distribute this? Like, can this claim contract be hosted by numerous people? And like, there's certain little questions there. I think it solves the front load. I think it solves the external compounding. And I think it solves some onboarding. So I'm pretty excited about it. And then the other thing is, like, if more people claim, then there's less available to be converted. And then effectively, if the demand is the same, then the conversion price should go up. And I see like a positive reinforcement there. And we know it works because it worked really well for a shitty project. A shitty project, it worked really, 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 really well for them.
So it should work good for a decent project.
Right. I mean, I was thinking of maybe tilting it so that we increase the amount released later. But in effect, if you're looking at the like, it works so well that I'm not sure I want to touch it and then have to worry about overshooting and backing off later and all that. I would like to get to market now.
Okay. Before we go to the next question, I do want to make an announcement for my conference I'm doing in August in Dallas. If anyone is interested, I host a conference called BitBlock Boom, and it's a Bitcoin conference. You know, Richard, I went to a lot of Bitcoin conferences in the last 2 years where they really didn't talk about Bitcoin at all. I mean, I went to one that they didn't even have a speaker about Bitcoin. So I decided to have a Bitcoin conference and go after that niche because I think there are a lot of people who are interested in that. So if anyone's interested in looking at my conference, go to bitblockboom.com. The conference is scheduled the 17th and 18th. Like I said, it's in Dallas, Texas. And if you use the code COUSINS, CUSINS, you'll receive 30% off the price of your ticket. So check out bitblockboom.com. Hey, I do have a question with Hex. I have a Treasure, for instance. A lot of people have Treasure. Some people have other wallets. I know you have to go into your wallet and add, I guess, basically an address or something in there for people to get their free Hex. I'm not sure how that works.
Sure. So good Bitcoin wallets have a function called sign message, verify message. And what that means is that the same keys that you use to prove that you own an address to spend from it are the same keys that you could use to sign messages that don't spend money, but just say, yo, look, this is really mine. I could spend from it if I wanted to, but instead, I just want to send you a message to prove it's really mine, right? So for us to distribute these free tokens to people, we distribute them to people that hold Bitcoin at the snapshot height, which hopefully 50 days, but we'll see, right? We've got a lot of progress, and we keep making progress faster and faster because, you know, once you've solved a thing, it's easy to play with your solution. It's very hard to solve it in the first place. So now we're just playing with solutions. It's a lot easier now for us to make progress. So you would just sign a message that says, claim hex 2, and then your Ethereum address. Now, is there risk in signing messages? Only if you sign a really, really weird one. Apparently there's some way to make some really long thing that's actually a Bitcoin transaction, and then if you sign that, you send your coins away. But if you're signing something that's short that you understand, there's absolutely no risk. That's what it was designed to do, right? So as long as you don't sign an obfuscated, long as hell Bitcoin transaction, you're fine, right?
Okay.
If you weren't fine, this wouldn't be a feature in Bitcoin Core, Electrum, Koinomi, you know, right, all the good wallets that wouldn't have it as a feature. And you'd hear reports of people getting screwed. I've never actually heard a report of anyone losing money like that. I think it may just be a theoretical. And so you will just sign something. You go to, claim.hex.win, and then you just, put your Bitcoin address in there. You can do it over Tor, so you're totally anonymous, or VPN or whatever. I don't care what your IP is. I'd rather not know. And then you copy paste the signature into your wallet. You sign from whatever address you want to be signing from. It's got your balance in it. You got to do one.
I want to invite on stage number 1, Richard Hart, number 2, Jessica Rosenkrantz, and number 3, Per Bolund. A huge round of applause, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Please take a seat. Take a seat. Welcome, our dear panelists. Amazing to have you here, and thank you for your time. Of course, all of you are extremely busy, and this is really our opportunity to talk about blockchain, to talk about this new technology and new trend we see in finance, and how governments can work with it, and how regulators can work with it. So can you please introduce yourself very quickly? We have Richard Hart, the influencer, the Bitcoin ideologist, I would say. We have Jessica Rosenkrantz from the Moderate Party here in Sweden. We have Per Bolund from the government. So my first question to all of you really is, how should governments and regulators work with new technology? How should you relate to new technology? So if we start with Per.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for having this arrangement and for allowing me to be here as well. Of course, we think that the development when it comes to cryptocurrency and the digitalization of the economy is extremely interesting and also holds very much potential for the future. So we're trying to always find a way to be in line with the development, to find ways to not over-regulate, which I think is always a risk. I mean, this is still quite a new phenomenon and is really, really vibrant and so much happening all the time. I guess that all of you also find that every time you open a newspaper or browse the web, something new has happened. And of course, there's always a risk that as a regulator, you are a bit too offensive and you try to find regulation perhaps too early in the development. And that is something that we've tried to avoid. One example is, for example, crowdfunding, which is also a development that's been quite rapid and a lot of different solutions, a lot of different business models, and there were demands on the government to go in quite early and regulate the market in order to, well, avoid the bad people to come into this market. But if we had done that, I think that would have been a risk to really just draw on the carpet under the market. And I think that perhaps we should have the same approach when it comes to cryptocurrencies as well. If we move in too early and regulate it too strictly, that would risk not getting the advantages that this market could provide.
Jessica, what is your comments on Per's answer? And what is your answer yourself?
Well, I agree on most things that Per actually said, so that's good. And thank you for having me here as well, I have to say. This is an amazing crowd. It's very impressive to have all of you people here. Wow. And it's very interesting for me and Per, I think, because this is not an everyday topic in Parliament, I have to say, and that's both good and bad, I think. Sometimes it's good that politicians don't run too fast and try to regulate everything, which is a risk when you speak to politicians. But it's an increasing trend, however, and my job in Parliament, I'm the spokesperson for the Moderate Party on issues relating to digital issues in general, and vice president of the Committee on Transport and Communications, where the digital issues lie. And for me, it's important to find this balance between making sure that new technologies can grow and take place, creating a sound environment and regulations, but still not moving too fast. And that's a tricky balance sometimes, but you know, in various issues, I've worked a lot with the sharing economy, for instance. You see a tendency from some politicians to want to take all these new things and just put it into the old regulations. And instead, I think we should of course, make sure that there are some rules and regulations you have to follow, but also see how can actually policy change, how can regulations change to meet the demands of these new technologies and innovations. So it's a possibility, I think, from policy makers to make sure that innovations can grow in our country.
Richard, any thoughts?
I have a great answer on this one, Deed. So excellent day to have this government conversation. The government solution to most problems is a giant disclaimer that no one reads. So if you take out a loan, they require the loan giver to print a huge, 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 intimidating wall of text that no one ever reads and fewer still understand. And you realize that larger and larger disclaimers and disclosures doesn't actually help anyone. People that were going to make a bad decision still make it. So what you actually need if you want better outcomes for your citizens isn't more draconian laws on disclosure, it's better marketing of better behaviors. So I'll give you an example. Today, the SEC in the United States made a fake ICO website making fun of ICOs. That is excellent engagement. That will actually get good results for the users. That is much better than making ICOs add another 20 paragraphs to the disclosure in the hopes that it'll stop making people stop making bad decisions and investing in stupid ideas, right? So when the government decides to act more like a human and less like a machine and make a parody of something that, you know, is the Wild West, a lot of people, if they haven't lost money yet, should. You know, if you invest in a business that sucks and should have never been created, and then you buy in at some giant valuation that is not reasonable, you should get wrecked. You should lose your money. And one of the only ways to prevent that from happening is to make unreasonable laws restricting speech so that no one can make any type of hype that doesn't work, or to make them add disclosures that no one reads, or to make a funny parody website that actually shows you, hey, look how stupid this is. I think that is a more effective governmental strategy for modifying behaviors of users and getting better outcomes than writing more laws, particularly laws that people can easily avoid by changing where they register their company.
Something very interesting for the entire crypto community in Sweden and just globally is how much are cryptocurrencies on your radar in parliament and in government? And also, do you have any practical experience yourself? Do you yourself own Bitcoin or Ethereum or any other crypto? Do you have colleagues that own cryptocurrencies?
Well, I see that the fintech development in Sweden and Stockholm has been quite tremendous, and I think we have over 150 fintech companies already in Stockholm, and some of them are also into cryptocurrencies. And I've, as the Minister for Financial Markets, I've taken a point to actually visit them and hear their business models and their views on development and on regulation as well. So I've of course been shown the Bitcoin environment and also shown how to use a wallet and so on. However, I think that my role as a politician is to regulate the market rather than participate in it. So I'm not an active user of cryptocurrency yet. We'll see what happens in the future. But I think that we can easily see that Sweden is a good country to develop new technologies for financial markets in. I think it was only a few years ago that 18% of the fintech investments in Europe actually went to Sweden. And that is, of course, dramatic, a very large part of the investments to quite a small country. And that shows that we have found some ways to move forward in these issues. And I think that would be beneficial also for the cryptocurrency development and the blockchain development as well. So what we've done is, of course, we've had a very rapid digitalization of the economy. It's only a small fraction of percentage points of the transaction in Sweden that actually is done by cash at the moment and is decreasing extremely rapidly. And this, of course, opens up for new thinking, new ideas, fintech development, adding new values to the customers and consumers, and also opening up for new ways to transfer money, for example, and using cryptocurrencies and these techniques. So, and what we've tried to do is have a positive approach to this, seeing the possibilities and not only the risks, which, of course, are there as well. For example, the Swedish FSA opened up an innovation center, finding ways to contribute and to work together with the business rather than to counteract and hold back. And I think that is the approach that we must have on all fintech areas. But of course, there has to be a balance as well, and there is, of course, always a risk. We have the consumer investor protections, where, of course, it's easy to say that if you make bad financial decisions, that's your own risk, your own fault. But it's harder as a politician when you speak to a retired person who says that, whoops, that was my pension that went overboard, and feel the need for some sort of protection, because I know there are many who give bad advice in the financial markets as well. And of course, as politicians, we have to make sure that the customers, the consumers, also have some level of protection in these markets.
Can I?
Absolutely.
The Australian and Swedish wars on cash are terrible, and they threaten the national security of the nations that engage in them. So if you live in Europe, you have a neighbor in this area called Russia, and every once in a while they invade their neighbors, and it's not that great. So
I can agree on that, yeah.
some Baltic countries kind of team up and run some exercises in the event that that may occur, and some of you guys join NATO and hope to rely on being a member of a larger team. And so it's all fun and games to worry about making big returns, but every once in a while a bad thing happens and you have to be prepared for it. And if Russia or another actor attacks this nation, one of the first things that will go down is your networking. And that means you're not going to have any Bitcoin transactions, and you're not going to have your stupid cards that barely work anyway. Rub my chip. Can we do it again? This isn't even English. It sucks. It's terrible. Destroying cash, one, removes all the privacy from human beings, which quenches their speech. It makes it harder for people to speak truth when they're constantly monitored. The only true speech can exist when a person can speak without repercussion. And if everything that you say is monitored because you paid for it with your trackable credit card, like in the UK, if you say the wrong thing, the police knock on your door. That crap is not fostering a free and open environment and exploration of ideas. It's draconian and it's terrible. And the fact that you guys are removing cash is just basically removing national security in the event of network being down. Now you guys can't use taxis anymore because you don't have a working currency because you went purely digital in a world where digital doesn't work half the time. I mean, a UK bank just had its ATMs and cards down for several weeks, and it was a rather large bank. So cash is important. It's important for privacy. It's important for free speech. It's important so that you don't have to have your eyeballs on what my diet behaviors are if I'm insured, right? I don't need my health insurance premiums modified on your draconian monitoring of how I use my credit card. They all lose the data anyway. Everything you capture will be lost. So I hate the fact that you guys hate cash. It really bothers me. You guys and Australia.
So, Jessica,
well, just to make a short point, sorry, Jessica, just to clarify, the government has not issued a policy that says that we should be a digitalized economy. We haven't stated that we should get rid of cash. This is something that is driven by the consumers and the providers, the banks. And of course, we feel that consumers should be able to make their own choice in these issues. And if people feel comfortable using cards, even though some other people think it's stupid, I mean, it should be the consumer choice.
Not really. You're in the business of protecting consumers, right? And if part of protecting consumers is making sure that they don't get preyed upon by data, like every piece of data you lose can be used to impersonate you and cause you to incur debts that you're going to be forced to pay. If someone gets a mortgage in your name in the United States, you do actually get screwed up for that. It does have a financial cost to you. So you should be interested in protecting your citizens from the data carnivores out there that will attack them with this over-eyeballing of customers for particularly no good reason. And it's not just the evil companies that take advantages, it's also other nation states. The entire secret database of top-level securities in the United States was leaked and lost to China, which didn't help America. And you can't go rewrite those things. You can change your password, but you can't change your birth date, and you can't change your relationships that you grew up with. That data is lost forever. The only way to protect people's data is to stop them from giving it away so much. So you may not be on team evil trying to kill cash. You're not exactly on team good trying to keep it alive.
Jessica?
Actually, we are.
Well, it's an interesting twist in this debate. You advocating cash, and we're sitting here promoting more digital means. I mean, it's very interesting in the debate in general. Just a few years ago, everything was supposed to be digital, and now we're all thinking Russia, and now we're encouraging people to stick cash under their mattresses and all that. So of course, we have to make sure of both things, to say the very obvious. And I just have to go to a meeting and meet particularly older people to definitely be certain that there's a future for cash as well the coming years, to say the very least. But still, I agree that this is very much consumer driven, and it's. The data issue is, of course, central. I mean, that's a tricky topic. Because normally, actually, we have a pretty tough legislation when you look at, to use the Swedish phrase, but Datainspektionen or other authorities who are constantly trying to make sure that we cannot test new technology. We could not test autonomous vehicles because then they have a camera on them and then they can spot something that someone can use in a bad way. And that's important, of course, but my perspective is that we in general have pretty tough regulations concerning data, and look at the general data protection regulation that has just come into force. That also is giving more power to the consumer. So I think I still think we need to see people as grown-ups, actually, and that a lot of people want to share their data with others.
I can tell you there is a Swedish politician who I disagree with vehemently on his choice of cryptocurrency. His name's Rick Falkvinge. He's the leader of the Pirate Party. He actually does have some good thoughts in his head, and one of them is that we need a digital analog of a digital representation of our analog rights. So back when you used to send mail to another person, the idea, the concept that someone would open that mail and read it before it got to their destination was unthinkable, was unconscionable. But the fact that you guys in Europe have made a law that you retain every single SMS message for a couple years, well, that's the exact opposite, isn't it? So if I communicate with somebody by mail, I'm protected. But if I communicate with somebody by SMS, I'm screwed. Well, that's odd. It's odd that we have this disconnect between the rights that we fought so hard for in the analog world, and now in the digital world, we just don't care anymore. It also exists with the Fourth Amendment in the United States. You know, you have a right to be free of unreasonable search and seizure, and only upon writ from a judge describing exactly the location and description of what is being searched for can that right to privacy be abridged or annulled. Well, at the border, they decided you don't have those rights anymore. We can ask you for the password to your phone, like in Canada, they won't let you in. You come to Canada, they ask you for the password for your phone, you give it, or they bounce you. And they bounce a lot of people. That's disgusting. You know what's in my phone? A lot of naked pictures of people. Some of them of me, sorry. Some of them other people. None of us probably need your $8 an ass looking at our pictures. $8 an hour paid, dude. Like, it's disgusting that people have forgotten how hard we worked to get those rights in the first place, and to use that as a reference point for the digital laws would be wonderful. And as far as your Data Protection Act goes, it's a joke. You can mandate that people try hard, and they will try hard, and then they will fail because security is hard. The only way to protect people's data is to not capture it. If you capture it, it will be lost, period.
So we've spoken a lot about data, but something else that is very interesting to the whole crypto community in Sweden is the topic of national cryptocurrencies. And we touched on the fact that Sweden is becoming more and more cashless, and even the Swedish central bank is looking at it and thinking, what does it mean for our national security, as you, Richard, said? If both Visa and MasterCard stopped working, suddenly no one can buy food, you can buy anything. And so therefore we have this notion of e-krona, the Swedish digital cash. So what is your view on that? If we start with Per, when it comes to national cryptocurrencies in relation to the independent cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, what is their relation to each other?
Well, I think that the national cryptocurrencies, the e-krona, is of course at a very early stage, so is not possible to say very much about it because the Riksbank has to do a lot of work before we can really see any results and any concrete ideas around that. But of course, it builds on the same general idea that in a digitalized economy, how can we provide meanings of payment in different ways? And you can say anything you want about cryptocurrencies, and they have great possibilities and opportunities, but in the general public there is also a skepticism about this. I mean, a hesitancy to use it. There's not enough knowledge. We've seen the volatility on the market. If I sit on a Bitcoin today, how much will it be worth tomorrow or in 5 years' time? And no one can tell. So, of course, if we want people to use digital currencies, there could be a good idea to have a trust provider saying that we issue this, we are some sort of guarantee for this currency. This is, of course, the opposite idea of Bitcoin, where there's no such guarantee at all. And perhaps both these ideas are valid and have the possibility to coexist, at least for time in the future. So which system will win in the end? Well, who knows? We'll have to see. But that is also the reason why I think we should have the policy to let many flowers bloom at this moment where so much is happening. And then eventually we'll see if the national digital currencies take over the game or if it's the other cryptocurrencies.
I think that the currency you can get rich on has a pretty big advantage over the currency that keeps becoming worth less. So if you look at the kroner, it's got a whole lot of digits in the end, right? You could pay 10 euros or you could pay 100 kroner. Well, why is there so many digits? Because they kept printing it and printing it and printing it. So they have a bunch of stupid zeros at the end of their currency now. Some countries have more, some countries have less. I don't think an intelligent investor with more than his petty cash would be wise to invest in the cash that goes down 3 to 5% a year just to inflation. And that's assuming that your central bank doesn't decide to just print more. I'm not exactly, in the United States we have a Fed, which is its own separate entity from our actual elected officials. So the people that choose our interest rates and our issuance rate are not elected, which is a little weird. How do you guys do it here? Do you guys have a separate team or does your government elected people do it?
No, the central bank is independent from the
independent as well
from the government. Yeah.
All right.
And that's the whole of Europe has the same system as well.
That is actually an interesting point you brought up, and I would like to hear Jessica's opinion on the fact that with national cryptocurrencies, you can control inflation. The government will be in control. With Bitcoin, for example, there is no way for one single government to control the inflation and do monetary policy in their country. So do you think it is even possible to have such a currency in Sweden where when the central bank doesn't control anything?
Well, it's pretty far off from where we are right now, so I can only speculate about that. I think, however, that this whole all these different cryptocurrencies growing or being developed, I think that it puts a sound pressure, I would say, on the central bank system. I was invited to this seminar about the Swedish e-crown. However, it was cancelled, so I guess the interest in general wasn't that big. But I think it's good that the central bank has to think about its ways of doing things, and in the long term, that goes back to us as politicians as well. So I'm not sure about your specific question, but going back to the broader perspective, since I mean Per knows all these financial markets perspective a lot better than me. I'm the more broader digital, working every day in the parliament. I see the big issue for all different kinds of blockchain technology is trust. That's the basic problem. I mean, I'm working a lot on digitalization of healthcare or the welfare system in general, public sector, or whatever. And whether you're speaking about cryptocurrencies or blockchain in general, the big problem is trust. And I think that's something we have to work together with authorities, with policy, and also the business in itself. And then you can discuss how much it should be regulated or not. But if it's not regulated, you probably won't have the trust, and then you won't see this technology being used in very many ways.
Something very interesting is also that different countries do national cryptocurrencies for different reasons. So in Sweden, we have the case that we are cashless, and that is the reason why the central bank is thinking about how can we create digital cash. But then you have, for example, countries such as Venezuela. They want to circumvent sanctions, so they want to create their own national cryptocurrency so they can transact globally without using the traditional finance infrastructure. So Richard, what is your view on all of these national cryptocurrencies in comparison to Bitcoin? Is it interesting at all to you, and what does it mean for the whole crypto space?
Basically, crypto was created to fix the problems of government. The first block ever mined, the Genesis block, I believe there's some text, either if not encoded in it, but released along at the same time of it, that says that British Chancellor on verge of another bailout for banks, where the government will unfairly benefit those who have friends in high places. For instance, lenders, right? So people will take huge loans, make mad gains, until it goes wrong. They privatize the gains, they socialize the losses. And that doesn't let capitalism work properly. If you have somebody like that, all right. If you privatize the gains and socialize the losses, it unfairly enriches the capital class that's in control of who kind of gets into office. So that system can't be cured from the inside, pretty much. It's basically lost. You can do some things with runoff voting that help, and getting rid of first past the post, and there's some other things you can do to try and fix politics. But the problem of needing to print money to pay bills, it's not going away. These guys have bills they have to pay, and they're denominated in their local currency, and they're going to keep printing that local currency to pay those bills until the game stops. So whether they digitize that bad system of generating debt that's unsustainable on a population that's decreasing in size, so their debt that they've incurred borrowing all that money for all those years, they have to pay back now with a smaller working group of people because people stopped having kids. So if people kept having sex and having kids, that debt would be spread across a lot more folks. Now those folks are screwed. Japan's more screwed than you guys, but you guys aren't really having too many kids. You might want to get more religious around here to start popping out kids.
Guys, on that note, we have a few minutes left, and I suspect that there are questions in the audience to our panelists. So please raise your hands, and then we have Toshi Times, who will run with microphone, or someone else will run with the microphone and ask questions.
Okay. Thank you so much. It's mainly for Per. There is an issue of national security when it comes to cryptocurrencies, where one government wants to influence the other. And I know you are not the Bistånds minister, or there is an advantage of actually as well getting aid to people with governments who wouldn't collaborate through some other means. What does the Bistånds politic, like SIDA, for example, what does it look like when it comes to adopting cryptocurrencies like for aid, and on the other hand, looking at national security? Thank you.
I understand nothing he said. Could you understand?
I had national security, cryptocurrencies.
I think it's connected to foreign aid as well. If we can use cryptocurrencies in relation to foreign aid.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are governments that wouldn't basically be qualified as governments for the function of aid. And because I've heard about some proposals where SIDA can use cryptocurrencies to forward aid to some countries, for example, through civil society or some other means. Is there such a thing from finance and Bistånd's perspective? Bistånd is like aid ministry, or Thank you.
Well, I'm not aware of any current projects going on in this field. However, SIDA is of course always looking for new ways to channel the aid, so to make it as efficient as possible, to make sure that the receivers actually get the money in the way that they should. And we have of course problems channeling through governments who not always look for the best of their citizens, and sometimes a lot of money gets stuck in the way. So we've worked a lot in Sweden also on remittances, people sending money back to their homes. And of course cryptocurrencies can be a very efficient way to achieve that, and actually that is a much larger flow of capital than aid in the world today, much larger. So if we can get remittances to work much better, I think that would be even more providing growth and development in developing countries than only foreign aid in itself. But SIDA is free to find new ways to channel aid. So I think that could be a very, very interesting potential for the future.
Jessica?
Well, just to add, I mean, the aid aid as such has had some problems with credibility at times, because we can't really follow up where the money goes. And I think blockchain as such is a huge possibility to make sure that we actually can have transparent systems and actually follow up on the aid that is given. So it's a very anti-corruption mean in that way.
Blockchain's 100% useless for that. It'd be worse. The guy that was stealing the money the old way will be able to hide it better this way. So blockchains are useful for censorship resistance, getting rich, speculation, not so much helping the world, to tell you the truth.
Should we go home now?
Yeah, like if you want to make the world better and people need food, you could stop giving them money to buy food and you could just spend food. And then if he still resells it, it sucks, but he's less likely to resell it, because at least he doesn't get as much of the money he stole, right? Like if he steals the sandwiches. So you're better off sending him sandwiches than you are sending him cash and trying to like anti-money launder it. Here's the reason blockchain doesn't help with most things. If the blockchain stays in the digital world, it's trustless and awesome. If the blockchain touches the real world, like sandwich world, the guy handling the sandwiches lies to the blockchain, and then the blockchain can't help you. So as soon as you try and touch the real world with your blockchain project, it stops being useful, because the guy that converts the data in the real world to tell the computer what's going on, that guy lies. And if you have to trust that guy anyway to not lie, then you can trust that guy to run the same system on a SQL database or on the legacy system. So blockchains only solve trust in the purely digital domain. If you touch the real world, completely useless.
More questions to our panelists. I think we have time for one more question, unfortunately. Please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. Just a quick one. How are you planning to, dealing with tokenized companies? So when companies starting not only doing ICOs, but tokenizing their businesses to give maybe more to users, for example, do you have any plans to deal with that? Because the conversation has been more or less around national cryptocurrencies, but what about businesses? Because more like usually it's business who, make changes or try to foster change. Thank you.
So just to add some comments to that, this is a trend we see currently, that companies are doing so-called ICOs, raising money through tokens, and then they have this token that can do different things, maybe in their IT infrastructure, on their website, in their current business model. And currently there are regulatory questions. So for example, people in Sweden, they do not know if they could do it in Sweden, because what is their token? Is it a security? Is it a utility? So they move to other places where it is more clear. Regulations are more clear. So do you have any experience with that, when you have companies issuing tokens and they sell those tokens to general public?
Well, there is, of course, ICOs in Sweden as well, and sometimes there's a view that we're really left in backwaters and nothing is happening. But actually, if you compare to our Nordic neighbors or to the European level, Sweden is quite in the front. So, but of course, there's always more to be done. But I think that ICOs is of course a situation of heaven or hell. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities and a lot of companies that can get funding that otherwise wouldn't have had a chance. But we also know that there is a lot of fraud in this area. Some studies have said that almost 80% of the ICOs are really not for the benefit of the consumers or for real investments. So, of course, we have to find a way to also make sure that there is a legitimacy in the market. But then again, when it comes to future business models around cryptocurrencies, I'm not the guy to tell about that. I think there are huge opportunities, and we already see digital actors taking payments in cryptocurrencies, for example, and I think it's only the start. So I think that this is a time where we have to let the markets find the new solutions, and then in the end we'll have to see if there is a need for regulation. Of course, we have a big ear and are listening to the needs, but at this point in time I don't see that we have the opportunities or the necessity to actually have national regulation. On the other hand, on the European level, there is a work that is starting up. The Commission has in their FinTech paper said that they will closely monitor the cryptocurrency and see whether there's a possibility to find a suitable regulation on the European level. And my view is that perhaps this should be on the international level through the G20 or something, because this is an international phenomenon.
Jessica?
Well, my answer is more in a more broader sense. Let's just face it, the future of the economy in general is the digital economy. That's where the jobs are growing, and we need to make sure that investments and companies and jobs grow here and not in other countries. That's the national point of view, right? If we want to keep Sweden growing, we have to make sure we have a sound and good business climate. And I think that's very important as well. On top of these very specific issues, I think it's very important to realize that, sorry, Per, but this government has actually raised taxes with 60 billions during this term. We have seen an increased bureaucracy, administration. So on top of these, sometimes unclear rules, we have actually a development going in the wrong way, I would say, with increased taxes and more bureaucracy. And that's not the way forward when we see countries as Estonia or other countries actually being very progressive in making sure that digital companies, startups, investors want to have their businesses there. So that's a task for policymakers going forward, to decrease taxes and decrease regulation in that sense.
The United States is kicking ass on this, actually. So the state of Delaware recently passed legislation making it legal to track ownership of shares in a company on a digital ledger, which is a breakthrough. The state of Wyoming is passing legislation regarding hands-off treatment of utility tokens and classifying what a utility token is. Now, just to let you know how important Delaware is, the vast majority of public companies in the United States are incorporated in Delaware. So for that jurisdiction to let you know that you could digitally account for share ownership on a ledger makes token for equity a lot easier pill to swallow. So don't be surprised if you see a token for equity coming out of Richard's team sometime soon.
On that note, I want to thank the panelists. Thank you so much for your time, for being here and sharing your views. And also thank you everyone who has asked questions. Please stay seated. We have a present for you.
Oh,
it's tokens.
A Bitcoin.
You can use maybe in parliament, maybe in government, but this is a hardware wallet where you can store your cryptocurrencies. So far, if you get Bitcoin, this is the thing you should use to store it.
Excellent.
Jessica?
Thank you.
The same for you. Richard, you already have one. You have two.
Man.
And
I need more than one.
Looks very physical. I thought it was a digital currency.
Yeah, but this is another layer of security, so you can have it more safe. So a huge round of applause for our panelists. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. Please. Tack så jättemycket. Tackar.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Wait, did I mute you?
All right. I'm ready.
All right. Cool. All right, let me just start it and we'll intro there. All right. Starting. All right. I think we're live. I'm not that... I know you do that thing where you have people type in so we know we're live, but I'm gonna wing it. I usually do shows at 6 p.m. and I haven't done live, and I just announced it yesterday. So I'm not expecting a huge crowd, but I wanted to record it because this is very exciting. This Bitcoin Hex project, I'm like, I fell into your little rabbit hole. I woke up one morning. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, I go to bed early and I read a little and go back to sleep. I was on Twitter. I stumbled on your video at 3 a.m. and I watched you for like 2 hours, and then
Just so, 2. Nice. You got off easy.
So I wanted to, and my viewers, I give advice sometimes on what. Actually, I'm not a financial analyst, but I talk about the different crypto projects. What you have is really interesting to me, just for a bunch of reasons about game theory, and we'll get to that. But the other thing is, I've only looked at it a little here, and it's free. It's free money. So, okay, fine. Like, why not? It's just a little bit of our time to get it. So I need to understand a little more technically how it works, and then talk about, the chances of this thing being, one of the top coins that you hope it to be. So I've got a lot of questions. I guess I'll just start. Well, do you want to give a brief intro to people of what it is? How would you explain it in a few sentences?
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Richard Hart, cryptocurrency thought leader, OG, been in Bitcoin since early 2011. Serial entrepreneur, retired in 2003, traveled the world, had 150 employees, 60 million a year in sales. Started myself, no partners. That was like one of many businesses I did. So it seemed like every business took like 2 years. So did car stereo for 2 years, did search engine optimization for 2 years. Then we got into mortgages and correspondent lending and a bunch of other stuff. So got into Bitcoin 2011. Bitcoin was invented 2009. I started watching it when it was $1, slightly under $1, and then I got in with a lot of other people when the article came out in Wired about the Silk Road, and I was like, oh, this is actually going to work. It has a use case. And then got in at 30, watched it go down to 1, held.
Did you buy at the top of that bubble? That 30 was. I remember looking at the old charts. That was. It's okay. Listen, we all.
Yeah, Roger Ver got in a couple months earlier than me, so he has like 30x my money.
Yeah.
So fair. It's like, it's hard for people to like. If you go to a sandwich store and there's 2 sandwiches left and there's 2 people trying to get the sandwiches, it's fair that both people get a sandwich for a normal price. It's not fair that one guy goes in just ahead of you, maybe after you hold the door for him, and then he buys both sandwiches and tries to mark it up 10x for you.
So you bought at 30 and went to 1. Did you sell on the way down at all?
Held forever, still holding. Like, you can take some off with hedging, but like, it's an interesting asset class.
Yeah, so you're only 10 times smarter than me, because I got in, it was around 500, I was around 350, average price. But now we look back and laugh, like, you're 30, I got it at 350. Yeah. And it's like, but when it falls from 30 to 30, it's painful, you know?
Well, I mean, it depends on how much other stuff you got going on. Like, I just haven't really cared about the falling that much, because when you have so much money, it's like, oh, whatever, it's up, it's down, doesn't matter. But then when I started coming out and like slapping my identity on this stuff, because I saw Ethereum overtake the market cap, I was like, all right, I'm going to defend my investment here. And, then that becomes your identity and what you're doing. It was really hard for me to like shake free of maximalism. It was really hard to do, but you figured out.
What did you try to do in Bitcoin to fix it? I mean, just with vision, or were you actually coding?
You can't fix it. You can't. It's not.
But I mean,
fixable.
were you doing like writing, trying to propose?
Oh, like public relations, like trying to explain to people, hey, ICOs are scams. These are bad businesses done by the wrong people at the wrong valuations with no product market fit, no traction, no milestones. The best outcome for the people that sold you the ICO is to just start another one and let the old one die. Like, it's horrible every way possible. And all of that preaching did nothing except, maybe some people didn't get destroyed by the ICOs that went to zero, maybe, but personally, I just, make enemies from doing that, right? So it's like a tragedy of the commons kind of, where I try and save the many at personal cost, and it's not worth it to me, right? Same.
So I'm a little lost here.
Sure.
I mean, you can tell more about your intro. I was going to almost get to some of that stuff later, which is a little backwards.
Okay. Yeah, we can do the hex thing if you want. Whatever you want.
What's that?
It's your show, man. However you want to do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, the bottom line for me, I love one of the things you said was you say a token is just trust and game theory.
Yep.
And I kind of think it's right. Okay. Trustlessness.
Yeah.
I guess each of these words we could spend an hour defining, but the trustlessness, game theory, and I also think utility. But anyways, this thing about game theory, I think, is really interesting. And I'm curious, first of all, so your token, you're coming out with, it's just trust and game theory. It's the best in both. So it's going to be a top coin. And there's some merit to that argument.
It will be a top coin for other reasons. Being a good coin is not enough.
Well, what I see you're saying is, well, it's an ERC20 token, audited, and so it's safe. It's the security trust. We don't have to worry about the rules changing.
It's safer than coins with low hash rate. So it's safer than Bitcoin. It's safer than everything except for Bitcoin and Ethereum, maybe.
Yeah.
I can make the case that it's safer than Bitcoin against some things. And I can make a case that it's safer than Ethereum, which it runs on, for some things. It depends on how technical you want to get.
I think it's safe in that what you code will happen.
Right.
But the question is whether your code happens the way we hope it works, right? It's some of the, you've got a lot of game theory. So basically, so the game theory, your idea here.
Well, I'll just pitch it.
Incentivizing. First, I'm just curious, how do you define game theory? I define it as just some sort of incentives to get people to just hold the token. Like, is that what
sure? If that's what, if holding the token is your end game, then so game theory is basically a branch of psychology and to some degree mathematics, where you try and analyze all interactions that conscious actors have that have agency and say, okay, all of the ways that conscious things can interact have this general format, right? There's a winner, there's a loser, there's a tie, there's cooperation, there's antagonism, and then you just permute all those things and you say, okay, how many different strategies are there that you can play this game with these types of participants? And then you can use like a Monte Carlo simulation and have them all fight each other and do it over and over and over again. And what you find out for the most part is that the most successful game theory is tit for tat. And you can discover that in yourself because human beings have a feeling called reciprocity. So if I scratch your back, you know you owe me a back scratch, right? If I give you some food, you know you owe me some food. So that is built into our psychology because it's effective, and it's not just built into us, it's built into animals as well. So, a lot of the emotions that work well for humans in interacting with each other, they also work well for anything else that's conscious, right? So for the most part, I get asked a lot about what book people should read on game theory. And I pretty much tell them, don't. Just read books on marketing. Because the sets of games that you want to optimize for the most part, revolve around significance and wealth, right? That's what you really care about. You don't really care about the prisoner's dilemma and defecting to another side and, tit for two tat strategies. You really don't care about that stuff. You just want to be able to sell stuff and make people like you. That's what you really want. So I tell them to skip the game theory for the most part and just study marketing, because it's a specialized vertical subset of game theory. It existed.
It's funny you say that because I was really early on the internet. I was one of the largest distributors of adult products, and I created.
Hello there.
G'day Richard and g'day crypto goers. I'm Adam Stokes. Very special episode tonight. He retired in 2003 after an immensely diverse entrepreneurial career, starting with car stereo installations and sales from his front yard at 18, also known as Audio Ecstasy, before moving on to other adventures including Internet Marketing Masters, Triple X Toy Joy, which sounds like fun, lead.
Hello everyone, this is Richard. Starting. Hello everybody, it's Richard Hart here. I just want to let you know.
I want to invite on stage. I want to invite on stage number 1, Richard Hart. Number 2, Jessica.
Starting.
What is going on, Crypto Family? Are we?
I want to invite on stage.
What is going on?
Starting.
Is it done?
What is going on, Crypto Family?
The Australian and Swedish wars on cash are
wrong fucking.
They've changed that studio.
I'm gonna try it again. Starting. Hello everybody, it's Richard Hart here.
I want to invite on stage.
What is going on?
Wait, did I mute you?
All right, I'm ready.
All right, cool. All right, let me just start it and we'll intro there. All right. Starting. All right. I think we're live. I'm not that, I know you do that thing where you have people type in so we know we're live. But I'm gonna wing it. I usually do shows at 6 p.m. and I haven't done live, and I just announced it yesterday. So I'm not expecting a huge crowd, but I wanted to record it because this is very exciting. This Bitcoin Hex project, I'm like, I fell into your little rabbit hole. I woke up one morning. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, I go to bed early, and I read a little and go back to sleep. I was on Twitter. I stumbled on your video at 3 in the morning, and I watched you for like 2 hours, and then.
Starting. Hello, everybody. Well, I guess YouTube's doing their job because we already got some visitors in the chat here. I was hoping that YouTube would pop me a nice kind of longer lasting link for this stream, but since I don't see one, I'm just going to spread the Richard Heart /live YouTube one. I'm going to put it on Telegram. I'm going to tweet it, and then when people click it later, who knows where YouTube will send them. If they were smart, they'd send them to the recording, but we'll see. If you want, you can take over. Doing their job because
okay,
we
well,
got some visitors.
Let's go ahead and start. We start the show with you saying, hello, this is Richard Hart, and then I'll come back to you in about 4 or 5.
Hello, everybody. It's starting. Hello there.
G'day Richard and g'day crypto goers. I'm Adam Stokes. Very special episode tonight. He retired in 2003 after an immensely diverse entrepreneurial career, starting with car stereo installations and sales from his front yard at 18, also known as Audio Ecstasy, before moving on to other adventures including
starting. Hello there.
G'day Richard and g'day crypto goers. I'm Adam Stokes. Very special episode tonight. He retired in 2003 after an immensely diverse entrepreneurial career, starting with car stereo installations and sales from his front yard at 18, also known as Audio Ecstasy, before moving on to other adventures including Internet Marketing Masters, XXX Toy Joy, which sounds like fun, Lead Feeds, Wibout, and more. He started GPU mining Bitcoin in early 2011, back when the block rewards were 50 coins per block and achievable without being part of a pool. That would have been nice. He's lived all over the world, has more than 40,000 subs on YouTube, 52,000 followers on Twitter, and is the